Welcome to the JPTV show. And we back, baby! Yeah! Let's go, champs! Right? That's what we're here for, man. We got a special guest in the building today. Man, you ain't gonna believe it, man. Very inspirational for me, man. I'm gonna let him know live on wax, baby. All right? Because I do appreciate this man's existence. And you will too. So stay tuned. Let me give you a little peek. Okay, give you a peek. Guess who we got in the building? Boy, you better know it. Shakka, Ahmose. The man, the myth, the legend is in the building.
I always like the legend. That's the one I always like.
All right, guys. Enjoy the intro. Let me put my man back in the VIP section. Hey, man, you see what's going on. Dig it. JPTV done it again. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the intro.
All I wanted was JPTV. Yeah. All I wanted was JPTV. Yeah. All I wanted was JPTV. Yeah. All I wanted was JPTV. All I wanted was JPTV.
When you come on my show, let me make sure that you know.
All I wanted was JPTV. All I wanted was JPTV. Yeah.
Believe it or don't.
Welcome back to JPTV. Thank you for all who will be watching live and who will be viewing after this is over. I appreciate you guys coming through. And if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Please like and share the video. Send it out there to your friends. This is going to be some great information that we're going to go through tonight. And I appreciate you. Okay, Joe, I'm going to go ahead and okay, all right, cool. Thank you. Okay. Let me bring my guest in because I'm very elated that he is in the building. Shakka Ahmose. Let's give him another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He is in the building. Shakka, how are you, man?
Hey, my brother. Oh, I love that applause. That's all the people that's there with you in that studio. Yeah, that's what's up. And how on earth did you get to Egypt tonight? I'm trying to figure that out because I see those pyramids behind you. I'm trying to figure out. What are you doing in Africa this time of the morning, my brother? I'm just trying. Because a lot of times people like to conveniently forget that that's where those pyramids are in Africa, right? So they're not in the Bronx, they're not in Norway, and they're not in Brazil. They're in Africa. Okay, so let's be very conscious of that. I am healthy. I am wealthy and I have life. So I have Uncle Jaseneb, which I wish to you and to your audience, Uncle Jaseneb, life, health, and actually it's life, prosperity, and health. Yeah, life, prosperity, and health. Uncle Jaseneb. So that's what I'm wishing to everyone. Hey, I see you work with the children, with the youth.
Yes, yes.
I like that. That's good. Those are the people that I really enjoy teaching because what I share with you and what I impart to you, you can impart to them. You know? Yeah. It's important.
Very important, man. Yeah. Very important. I'm knee deep in them. I love what I do, man.
Yeah, I try to make myself available to educators, like extremely so. You know? Yeah.
I appreciate the selection. You know what I'm saying? Let's go, champ.
For sure. Takes one to know. Absolutely.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. All right, let's start it off because I do want to tell you how before I get into your Nile Valley move, I do want to introduce you.
I just want to interject. What happened to our other guest, Jay?
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna tell you about that. He had a time till about 9:30. He had to go to work.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, cool. And I wanted to ask you, and I'm gonna get to that later on about that.
I thought I was being ambushed by a pastor or somebody.
Nah,
that would have been awesome. I could have used the workout.
he just texted me, man. He was like, "Man, that dude seemed cool as hell, man, but I gotta go."
Cool.
I was like,
Awesome.
all right, cool, man. Cool.
That's what's up.
Yeah, man. Let me first let you know that how inspired I was by you. That's how I met you. I actually met you through a channel called Sarnetta Channel.
Sure. Sarnetta TV. Yeah.
Sarnetta TV.
Right.
Yeah. When I was going through my little Jesus thing, and then I was kind of leaning towards the Hebrew Israelite because I was going through a journey. My mother was Christian, father Muslim. I dragged over here, dragged over there, spent more time in Christianity.
Right.
I got older. I started doing stuff myself, going to the mosque myself, and after that, I got out of both of it, and I ran into the Israelites down on Gallery Place, and they was talking the same thing that they were speaking to this anger I had, right? And I was like, damn, man, they right on. So I said, man, I'm gonna start going to the camps. I'm gonna start going to the cookouts. I'm gonna start doing, you know what I'm saying? This is it. I feel this. This is where I need to be. I feel it.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, then I ran into the Sarnetta channel, right?
Right.
Then I seen you come around the corner, right? It was slow motion.
The drama.
And I was the drama. I was like, hold up, man. And like y'all was face to face, and I said, I gotta hear this. And he was making so much sense, right?
Right.
And some stuff that he really couldn't answer, but tried to answer, and just made up some shit. I could tell when he was making up.
Facts. Yeah.
And it just made so much sense to me, and I wanted to let you know, thank you for being a part of my awakening with that.
I thank you for allowing me, or do we say Nehem? So in ancient Egypt, I try to use, when I'm talking and I'm teaching, I try to use the language of interest that people are interested in. So that would be the language of ancient Kemet, or Eden Kemet, the speech of Kemet. And so they would say thank you. They would say Nehem or Enehemu. So I say Enehemu, which is thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your awakening. I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, man. Yeah. So are you still affiliated with Sarnetta and them?
Oh, that's, I think the best way to answer questions like that are, there's enough space out here for all of us to make an impact. And so he continues to make his impact on his platform.
For sure.
And I am making an effort to make an impact in places where I'm well received. Yeah, in places where I'm well received. And that also includes his platform as well. He doesn't ever close his platform off to me. It's always available to me. And so I'm always appreciative of that and very grateful to him for that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great, man. That's great, because I always, from a guy looking on the outside, it's like, dang, I want you over there all the time, just to hit Shakka, where the hell Shakka at? You know what I'm saying? Like, I came here and seeing all these great people now, just missing, like, okay.
Well, I got to say this.
I don't want to watch the channel no more.
Hold on. I got to say this, JP. That is, for some reason, people seem to be under the impression that my mind works only if I'm on that platform. And what I have to remind people is that my mind is intact no matter where I am.
Gotcha.
So it's not the platform that is a requirement for you to learn from myself. It's just having access to me. It's just, being able to be exposed to me and being able to invest in some time so that you can be furnished with some factual information that you would normally otherwise most likely not be able to you would not be able to acquire on your own unless you're willing to make the level of investment I've made in learning. I mean, it's going to be hard to get, in my opinion, it's going to be hard to get 30, 35 years of knowledge in a year. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I bring to the table. I bring almost 40 years worth of study, serious study, to the table. You know, that's what I bring to the table, and that is the asset in being able to have an exchange with me, with my person. And so that doesn't matter if we're standing on a street corner, or if we're in a subway, or if we're sharing an Uber, or it doesn't matter. We could be in an ice cream parlor or sitting in the park. It doesn't matter. It's about what's in there. You know, it's what's in here. That's what matters. So it's not necessary. I mean, look, there's more than enough content of me on that other platform that people can satiate themselves. But the only thing that I would tell people is the Shakka Ahmose that people may have been accustomed to, have grown accustomed to on the other platform, that Shakka Ahmose doesn't come close to this Shakka Ahmose when it comes to knowledge. Yeah, yeah. You know, and that's the beauty of studying time. The more time goes on, the more study you get in, the further out of reach you are to those persons trying to catch up with you. You know?
And speaking of that, I know the conscious community was so impactful now, but from on the outside looking in, it's kind of falling apart. What are your feelings for the conscious community? How do you see it?
Okay, that's a fair question. Well, I've always gone out of my way, number one, to make it very clear that I have never been, nor am I, nor do I ever intend to be part of any conscious community. Okay? I always stated that when I was on the House of Consciousness, I always made it clear I'm not a part of the conscious community. I am a member of the African community. And so when I come on someone's platform, I come on as an African, as a person of African descent, as an African forebearer, because I'm also a father. And, you know, so as far as the conscious community is concerned, I've never been able for myself to identify with it, because consciousness to me, it's an ambiguous term, and it doesn't really describe much. It doesn't say who you are. It doesn't say what your values are. It doesn't say if the premises that you stand on are historically sound and correct culturally, or have cultural veracity, right? So it would be very difficult for me to be legitimately be a part of that kind of brand, because all of the other people being shoved under that umbrella, we really don't have anything in common. Not with myself, they certainly don't, other than the color of our skin. Mm-hmm. But as Zora Neale Hurston said, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, you know? And so just because we have the same color skin doesn't mean, you know, or that we're males. I mean, we need to have a bit more in common for us to be able to say, yeah, we are ambassadors of this particular brand. So while there may be other people who remain under that conscious umbrella, I'm not one of them. And so, I mean, it's not as if I ever really identified with anyone in that community to say, well, yes, this is my peer. This is my, I mean, don't get me wrong. Because the conscious community, so-called, is inclusive, you will find members of the African community frequenting it, right, and participating in it. Right. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are a part of it, other than because of the way people consume content, it can have that appearance that you are somehow a part of it, or that you co-sign everything going on with it or in it. And that nothing could be further from the truth. I'm just basically, even when I'm on the side of the TV, I'm just there as a guest like anybody else. You know, it's almost like if you watch the news, if you watch ABC News, right, and they're covering the war, let's say the Russia-Ukraine war, they're gonna have different guests on that show to break things down for people, right? They might have retired generals, they might have retired politicians or whoever, experts, or what they call analysts. That doesn't mean that even if they have repetitive guests who are repeatedly on that show, it doesn't mean that those people are part of that community, or that they represent ABC, or that they represent Channel 7, or wherever it is that you are, whatever the channel is. Doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that the person is a guest on their show, right? Like, with all due respect, that goes for any platform that I'm given access to. I don't set myself up as an ambassador for that brand or for that platform. I'm here as a guest, and I'm here to give. I'm here to give to the best of my ability, to share, to add value to something that I think, may be of some value. And sometimes that remains to be seen. Sometimes it's very clear from the outset, because you could come and drop all the Jews in the world, but if you drop it on the wrong platform and that person doesn't really know what to do with it, it's like somebody trying to catch water. You know what I mean? Somebody pouring out a pitcher of water and somebody else trying to catch it, it's going to end up all over the ground. So what was the point? So all you can do, from my perspective, is show up where you are invited and where you have a seat at the table, and make the best contribution you can possibly make. And that's it. And that's what I did. That's what I did with Son of the TV. We had a personal relationship and we had a professional relationship, which has become, I would say, more professional and less personal over the years, only because people are about, in these days and times, people are really about their business. And that has to be respected. So the personal has to be just basically put into context. You know what I mean? It has to be subordinated to things that have greater relevance. And that's really it.
That's fair. I've questioned it and wanted to really know, so I'm glad you got that out.
Sure thing. I tell people, if you can't get enough Shakka Ahmose, come over to my channel, Shakka Ahmose on YouTube, and you can watch Hieroglyph. Hieroglyph is the name of my platform. Hieroglyph with Shakka Ahmose. And I basically just talk about things that I'm interested in and that I think people need to know about. My main interest, of course, ancient Egypt, its relationship to the Bible, to Christianity, and to other things related to ancient Egypt as well. So those are my primary interests, and those are the things that I teach on. And it's in that lane that I do my very best to impart knowledge that people would not normally otherwise get. The key term here is that people would not normally otherwise get, because from my perspective, if I'm going to teach you the same thing everybody else is teaching, you really don't have much of a reason or purpose to be talking to me. You can get it from anywhere, right? So my whole effort is to make sure that when I'm teaching, I'm sharing things with you that no one else can.
Fair enough. Yeah, I really believe that. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about, since we're on Egypt, I want to talk about your Nile Valley movement and explain it to the people what it is and what does it do for the people.
Oh, well, thank you for the plug. That's a poster for my my one-on-one sessions. If anybody has any questions and they want to learn more, just go to the website, shakkahmose.com, and just book a 30-minute session with me, and you'll definitely be back for more. So I stay busy in those sessions. The Nile Valley movement is the Nile Valley movement started as an effort to project, advance, perpetuate, and protect a Black image of Nile Valley civilization, particularly but not limited to ancient Egypt. Okay, that was and is the sole purpose of the Nile Valley movement, to advance, perpetuate, and protect an authentic Black image of Nile Valley civilization. And that's it. That is really, and by multiple, using multimedia lanes and multimedia facets. That was the point. Music videos. That's when you see my music video like Pharaoh or Egypt was a Black land. Or
yeah, that's my note right there, man. I don't care what nobody say. That right there, hey, Shakka, that right there,
right.
I like that, man. You went in on that. It was just different. You know, I like versatile. You know what I'm saying? You switch that up, baby. Because I know some other music where you rap and you go in. You know what I'm saying?
Right. For sure. Yeah. Right. Right. So basically, and I figure, you know, there's really no better place to start if that's the aim and the goal, to perpetuate, advance, and protect an authentic Black Nile Valley image. There's no better place to start than with yourself. So that's one of the reasons why I wear my Horus lock. That's one of the reasons why I wear a cat on my head, right? To just remind people that's our culture. And you don't have to read it in the book. You should be able to look at us and just see it. You follow what I'm saying? So when I see Muslims dressed in Muslim wear, and I see Christians dressed in Christian wear, I figure, okay, well, you know, we're the ones that started it all. We should look like it when people look at us. They should be able to look at us and say, oh, that's Kemet. And the problem that I have with many people in the Kemetic community is I don't see that. I don't look at them and see Kemet. Many of the females, yes, but not the males so much. And so I'm like, you know, you're running around screaming Kemet, but you're wearing West African garb. And I don't have a problem with West African garb. I love West African garb. I own and wear West African garb. But when you look at me, I want you to think and see Kemet first. Period. When you look at me, I want you to think and see Kemet first. And I would like to see that more from the males in the Kemetic community. Just Black people, period. You know?
Tell the people why Black identity is so important. Why do we have to go back and say, oh, we are part of this, instead of claiming wherever we're born, that's where we're from? Because a lot of Black people get hung up on that. We go from Black, we go from African, we go from Black American, we go from, or even some Egyptian, or what you have. You know what I'm saying? Why is Black identity so important, and how can we really pinpoint?
Well, it's very simple. That's not really a hard question, to be honest. So it comes down to choice, right? What are our choices? And so the way things work in the world is they either move forward or they move backwards, right? Sometimes they may move left or right, but what we are certain of is that things do not stay still. It either progresses or it regresses, right? So in America, because of the nature of our historical circumstances here, most of us made a choice, or well, there were two things that happened. One is a choice was made for us first, and then second, we made a choice afterwards. So you have to compare those two things and contrast them. So what was the choice made for us? That we would, okay, so I look at it like this. So when you're talking about African Americans, so-called,
right?
What are you really talking about? What were they? What, in other words, what were they before they became African Americans? They were Wolof. They were Ashanti. They were Sharia, Fula. They were Ewe. there was a guy, right? And all these other different people. Okay, so we were the phone, right? The phone people. We were the people of Daomi, right? We were the Mosai, right? We were all these different names. We were Wodabe, right? All these different names that we were. We were Igbo, Yoruba, right? All these different names, and much more, right? Too many for us to even begin to remember. But these were our names. These were names we were comfortable with. These were names that we went by. These names were how we saw each other. Okay, and someone made a choice for us, and it wasn't. It was basically an economic choice. They had some land in what is called America today. They needed someone to work that land. They needed free labor because the Native Americans could not hold up under the stress of the situation. And they made a choice for us and institutionalized us into enslavement in America. Okay? So that choice was made for us. That was not a conscious choice. We didn't say, oh yeah, let me sign up, like join the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and Marines. We didn't do that. That's not how we came to America. We didn't come to America the way Italians came, the way the Irish came, right? The way Greeks came. They all stopped through Ellis Island, right? Most of them had invitations, okay? And so what did it say? Give us your tired, you're weak, you're poor. That's not what they said when they took us, right? Or when we were brought to America. And so we came here as a commodity, something to be bought and sold or destroyed or used. That's what we came here as. And again, here's the key thing. Somebody made that choice for us, okay? After a certain period in that situation and under those circumstances, eventually, like all things in life, there came a point where we had to make a choice. And that choice was, and I say choice in quotation marks because was it really a choice? But the choice was, to put it succinctly, retain your identity as an African, right? Retain that identity or assimilate. Key word there, assimilate. Okay? And if you understand the way assimilation works, assimilation requires the increase of one thing and the decrease of something else. So as we made the choice, in quotation marks, to assimilate, because we really didn't have any other choice, to be honest, but we made the choice to assimilate, and in that choice, we became less African, if you will, and we became more European, more German, more English, more Anglo, okay? So rather than call us African Americans, they really should call us Anglo-Africans. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's really what we are. We're Anglo-Africans in that when we think to ourselves, what language do we think in? English. When we communicate to each other, what language do we speak in? English. Not many of our children are bilingual. If you're African American, so-called, most of our children speak only one language. So in every sense of the word, that where it really counts, I always joke with my friends, and it's a sad joke, that I don't know why we use the term African American, because most of us don't really care about anything African. We don't. Many of us, or far too many of us, don't really identify with it, right? And so, but I mean, and you have to. It's understandable why that is, but it doesn't mean that it's not a problem. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that it's not a problem. I still think, in my book, it's a problem. And so it's an issue. At least for me, it was. And so understanding that those were the choices to assimilate or retain your African identity, reacquire it, because you have to reacquire it. And why do you have to reacquire it? Because it was taken from you. It wasn't like you just gave it up. It wasn't like you walked into a pawn shop and said, yo, how much can I get for this African identity? That's not how it happened. And so when I talk to many Black people about these things, it's very apparent very early on that they are not in their right minds, and that I'm basically dealing with an African host of an Anglo mind, heart, and soul, And if you really want to understand the anger of so-called African Americans, or the resentment of African Americans in America and their relationship to white people, the truth of the matter is, I think the person who said it best was Chancellor Williams. Chancellor Williams is the author of a classic book called The Destruction of Black Civilization. And in one of his lectures, in one of his speeches, which I'm going to make available to people to consume, in one of his lectures called A Second Meeting with Hell, or something like that. I know the name of the lecture is The African Mind, Part 1 and 2, but he's talking about a novel he wrote in this lecture, and it was called A Second Meeting with Hell. It's a historical novel, and in it he's describing the relationship between so-called Black Americans and the white world. And he said, if you really want to describe the relationship, the truth, nature of the relationship between Black people in America and white people, he said the true relationship is, and this is the anecdote that he gave. He said, imagine if you're walking down a country road. And he said, we've all had this experience, walking down a country road as a little boy. And then the neighbor's dog, or a dog, comes out of nowhere and just starts following you. And the neighborhood dog, you don't know if the dog is gonna bite you or not, but he's just following you. So you pick up a rock and you throw it at the dog, and the dog runs away. And you go walking about your business, and then you turn around and you see that dog still following you. And you're like, what the hell? So then you pick up another rock and you throw it at the dog again. The dog runs off into the woods. You walk about half a mile, you turn around, you see that dog still following you. And he said, Chancellor Williams said, that dog is Black people. That's us when it comes to white people. He said, that's us. No matter how many times they tell you they don't want you, no matter how many times they tell you they don't love you, and how many times they tell you they consider you a monkey, an ape, whatever, and I never take that as an insult, right? To me, that's a compliment, right? To me, that's a compliment. But no matter how many times they reject us, right? No matter how much they persist with their tropes that Black people have the lowest IQ of all people in the world, in the racial pecking order, which is what they teach. We still just want to marry you. We want to make children with you. We want to be with you. We want to be a part of your world, And so it's the old trope. And so basically what he said was that the nature of the relationship between Black people and white people in America was that of a rejected lover. And the rejected lover in this case is Black people. And that's how Black people behave towards white people, as if we are the rejected lover in a relationship, instead of just getting over it and saying, oh, okay, you don't want to be with me? All right, cool. Let me just keep it going and do, come over here and do us, Right. So.
And that was like the reason why I brought my white buddy in, because I was looking at an interview and you were mentioning that white people are afraid to have this type of conversation. You didn't really go into what this was, but I wanted him to, I wanted you to talk about that conversation that white people don't want to have. Well, what is that conversation like? Is it admitting something, or is it?
Yeah. I'll give you the. It's called the forbidden conversation. And if you ever have any young black people, I hope they get to see this. Watching this, it's called the forbidden conversation, particularly in America. Why? Because got to make sure the cut is right, right? Because so the real argument starts with slavery. And so I often ask black people, I say, well, how do you feel about slavery? Oh, well, I hate it. I think it's bad. Okay, no problem. And then I asked them, what do you know about slavery? And what do you think about it? The role that white people play. Do you think that makes white people bad or whatever? Do you think they owe us something or whatever? And then after they give their answer, I asked them a question. And the question I asked them is, well, what would you say if I told you that black people enslaved white people first? And more often than not, they get uncomfortable and they get defensive and resentful. And I have to then explain to them that there is documentation, historical documentation, that makes that assertion that black people enslaved white people first. Well, they say, well, where and when? And I tell them, in ancient Egypt. They say, in ancient Egypt? I say, yes, in ancient Egypt. And then I may or may not show them the documentation. Okay? Now, why is this problematic for everybody? It's problematic, number one. Well, the first thing short-sighted black people think is, don't say that because then we're not going to get reparations. Oh, well, wait a minute. You skipped over something, right? You skipped over the fact that the reason you're saying that we're not going to get reparations is because if we enslaved them first, then what we received on the other end of it was just retribution, reciprocity, whatever you want to call it. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy that we put in motion. What goes around comes around. If you enslave, you're going to be enslaved. Okay? So by them saying that, they don't realize they've automatically admitted the truth of it. Right? They're so busy trying to protect reparations that are never coming that they don't realize that they've admitted the truth of it. It's not that they don't believe it. They're more concerned with what we can get or what we feel is owed to us. Which I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with reparations. I don't. The only problem I have with reparations is I don't want reparations that are given to us. I want reparations that we take. That's the difference. And black people are not taught the value of taking as opposed to receiving. We have a very skewed vision of what that's all about, which is why power players in the world, real power players in the world, they're all takers. That's why they got all of the power and you ain't got shit because they're takers and you haven't really learned how to take. You understand what I'm saying? You have to be taught how to take. Okay? It's something that has to be taught. You don't just learn it overnight. That's why you have people in this world who are very satisfied with whatever little bit they have, which is based, in many cases is nothing. And they learn to be appreciative of very little, which is not a bad thing. I'm just saying that this is what it is. So it becomes problematic for pro-black people when you put that on the table that we enslaved white people first, if we're going to go by the historical record. Only if we're going to go by the historical record. If we're not going to go by the historical record and we just want to go with our emotions and our feelings, okay, then black people never enslaved nobody. We were just enslaved. Okay? But if we're going to go with the historical record, we have to bring that front and center and deal with that fact that black people enslaved white people in ancient times, in antiquity, in ancient Egypt. Okay, that's number one. Now, so I've already given you the reason why that's going to be a problem for the pro-black community, because we would be admitting something that would disqualify us from reparations, okay, in their minds. So now the white people are conflicted with it. Those who really have some knowledge, right, they're conflicted with that, because in one, so you have two types of white grievances with this assertion. And the first grievance is, well, yes, we are ready to believe that black people enslaved us in ancient Egypt because that's how you people are, right? You people are tyrants. You are, you're mean. That's, you're monsters, basically. Okay. And so, yeah, we have no problem with believing that. But then you have the other white grievance, which there is much more of. I'll give you an example of something. Let me share something with you. I was doing a PowerPoint about white supremacy a few years ago. And I had to look at the grievances. I had to look at the grievances of all of the different white supremacist groups around the world. And they gave a list of grievances in a very good article. I forget which magazine it was in. It might have been Politico or one of these political rags, or Mother Jones or one of these, or the Huffington Post. And they gave a list of grievances that white supremacists have, of why they are white supremacists, or what their, and why this animosity towards black people. And I always tell black people, you need to remember this, because I'm going to find that article again and I'm going to do a PowerPoint on it. But I will never forget, one of the grievances they had was the fear that they would be enslaved by black people. And that's why so many of them freaked out when Obama won the presidency. Because white people, see, here's the thing. There's a lot of things about white people that black people don't understand, because black people cannot see themselves through the eyes of white people. We don't look at ourselves through the eyes of other people. We just look at ourselves. And the crazy part is that the fact of the matter is that we do and we don't. Because only in a negative stereotypical sense. So I'll give you an example. Frances Cress Welsing, who wrote the ISIS papers, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, may she live forever. Her mentor, Neely Fuller Jr., he gave a lecture, and I forgot the name of it, but in it, he said that inside of every black person, it's what I said a few minutes ago, the same thing. I said, we're really Anglo-Americans. He said, inside of every black person is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Anglo-Saxon. And he said, that's why we kill each other the way we do. Because, and what do? We kill each other, we call each other nigger right before we do it. Right? How many times you heard a black female say to another black female, you black bitch? Like, you're looking around like, huh? You black like me, right? But still would call you the black B word, okay? And that's because, according to Neely Fuller Jr., inside of every black person that you encounter, there is a inside of this package. And that was one of the reasons he recommended that we avoid each other. Until we straighten this shit out, he was like, black people need to avoid each other, because that operating system is always at work. Now, so what he was saying is that when we look at each other, the reason we kill each other is because we do look at each other, we do see each other the way white people see us. And that's why we kill each other. But what I'm saying is that we don't see each other the way white people see us historically. And we, not only that, we don't understand how white people see us historically. We're too busy looking at the world and at ourselves through our own narrow, myopic, limited vision and experience. So we don't really have a very objective view, an external view of ourselves, so we can understand the motivating factors behind the fears that people have and anxieties or inhibitions or whatever that people may have about us. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I do want to ask you, just when you say white people, is it like all white people is a collective thing? How can we determine that?
Well, when I use terms like white and black, I'm speaking in generalities, right? Okay. I'm just making a general statement. There's no absolutes about anything or anyone on planet Earth, but for the sake of understandable language, I'm speaking in generalities when I say white people and black people, right? So you just look at it like a chessboard. You got the white side, you got the black side. And on the white side, there is a predominance of a certain type of behavior. There's a predominance of certain reservations. There's a predominance of all kinds of things. It doesn't mean that it speaks for all white people. That's a silly assertion. That would be the same. That would be like saying all black people think alike, or that we all see the world the same way, and none of the above is true. So I'm just making generalities,
Yes.
That these things are in general true. Now let me give you the second grievance. So I gave you the first grievance that white people. There are those whites who are eagerly ready to accept the fact that black people enslaved white people in ancient Egypt. And the reason that they're ready to believe that is because that is what they fear is going to happen again. In fact, it's so deeply ingrained in them that it's in their subconscious, right? It's in their subconscious. It's in their superconscious and it's in their subconscious that we want to dominate them. Okay? That's always been their greatest fear, that we would assert ourselves and dominate them. Why? Because they have historical memories of it deep in their DNA and loosely in their history. They do. Trust me when I tell you, they do. They know. They're not stupid. They know what we did to them in the past. Okay? So, the other contingency of white people that you did have to contend with are those in serious denial. The ones who, when you say the ancient Egyptians were black, they freak out and have a conniption fit and swear to God up and down. No, they weren't. No, the ancient Egypt was not black. Well, you see, you can't have it both ways. You can't say in one breath that black people enslaved white people in ancient Egypt, and then in the very next breath, you want to say, oh, the ancient Egyptians were not black. Okay, well, if the ancient Egyptians weren't black, then we could say we didn't enslave you then. That was because the Egyptians certainly did enslave white people, but we could say, hey, it wasn't us. But the fact of the matter is that it was us. So
that's a good point. When you say
that's why you have this forbidden conversation, because
okay.
On one side, you have, and then that's the other thing too. If you admit that black people enslaved white people, then that means you also have to admit that we were the Egyptians and that we did have a level of sophisticated civilization that white people had not yet encountered for themselves yet. So there are too many things that you have to admit that conflict with the prevailing and overriding tropes about races in America. That's why I say that neither side is ready to have this conversation, because black people don't want to admit. I mean, I don't know if you remember when I first invoked this narrative, there were many black people in the Kemetic community that freaked out, Jabari Osaze being one of them, my good brother, oh, that's not true. And oh, it turned out it was true. And, when people got embarrassed when I put the documentation up, because they weren't expecting that, then they wanted to just make up all kind of shit. They wanted to make up all kind of stuff. But it's too late. The documentation is out there, and that's why they haven't argued. They haven't argued against it since then. They don't even touch that topic anymore because they know they're going to get slaughtered out the gate. You know.
I want you to break down something for me because I have a sound bite that I want to play. I want you to break this down for me. Check this out.
Tropical rainforest. It's in black. This is Ghana. It's tropical rainforest. The Congo over here, tropical rainforest. Other areas are what you would call semi-tropical. This is desert, arid Africa. We're not that and never have been. Desert Africans do not have kinky, woolly hair.
All right. So, I'm always looking at stuff, and I wanted to get your explanation on that.
Okay.
He's saying that we're not desert people. He's just saying that we're.
All right. Let me just say this about that person.
We don't go to North Africa.
Let me say this about that person. There's certain individuals I normally would not even respond to or bring up, only because their very presence gives truth to the trope that white people assert when they say black people have low IQs. Right? That was a low IQ person speaking. You understand? Almost, I don't even want to say low IQ. I would go as far as to say no IQ. Okay? There's a difference between low IQ and no IQ. That's a no IQ person speaking. Okay? The statement, it just sounds like somebody who never made it out of the 3rd grade or 2nd grade, to be quite honest. It's silly. It's very, very silly. It's historically erroneous and inaccurate. Okay,
see, and that's what confuses me. Like for people like me trying to get the real deal, it's like okay, one person say that, one person say. I mean, why? Why I got to be like that? I don't know, man.
People like that are historically illiterate. Okay? That same person, that's the same person who you just heard speaking there, who spent a year on YouTube trying to tell people that no black people had ever come from Africa and made it to America on their own boats prior to Columbus. He said all of that was a lie because they had made no boats, because he was in the Navy and he sees what the ocean does to seafaring vehicles. No boat made by Africans could make that trip. Okay? This is what that individual said. And the only thing that came to my mind was Thor Heyerdahl and the Ra One, the Ray One. Okay? Are you familiar with Thor Heyerdahl?
I don't know nothing. I'm just trying to get it out.
Okay. Thor Heyerdahl, Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Van Sertima often spoke of him. You know who Dr. Van Sertima is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. He often spoke of Thor Heyerdahl. And Thor, in fact, I think they knew each other. But Thor Heyerdahl was, I think he was an archaeologist, an anthropologist, but he wanted to see if it was true. You could bring him up on your screen if you want to, Thor Heyerdahl, and just put him up. All right. His last name is very easy to spell. It's Heyerdal. Thor Heyerdahl. Right. If you like, would you like me to send you a link so you can just grab it?
Yeah, you could.
All right. Here we go. Right here. Okay. So I'm just going to send you. You want me to send it to your email?
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Okay, that's not a problem. Right. Just so you can know who he is. Right. And this is what I mean. 1 second. Right. Let me see. Okay. Here we go. Right here. Open up. Here we go. Okay. All right. 19. Here we go. All right. Mexico. Okay. I took on water. 1 second. Water and storm because the sag and break apart. Okay. The crew was forced to abandon some 100 miles before the Caribbean islands. Say by yacht. Okay. And then Bolivia. All right, I was correct. So if you go to if you look at the link that I sent you, did you see the link that I sent you? Right?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, you see it, right? Mm-hmm. Go to the table of contents on that page and see where it says boat. Go to number 6, where it says boats Ra and Ra 2.
Ra 2. Okay.
Click on that.
All right, let me share my screen.
Did you click on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go to the, let me see, 1, 2. Go to the third paragraph.
Oh, shit.
There it says the following year, 1970. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You see it, correct?
Yeah. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I see it.
Right where it says the following year, 1970. You see it?
A similar vessel.
Right. So follow me. I'm going to read that. It says the following year, 1970, a similar vessel, Ra 2 or Ray 2, was built by Demetrio, Juan, and Jose Lamaki of Paparis. From Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, and likewise set sail across the Atlantic from Morocco, Africa, this time with great success. The crew was mostly the same, although the Jibreen had been replaced by Kamahado from Japan and Madani Ait Uwanu from Morocco. The boat became lost and was the subject of a United Nations search and rescue mission. The search included international assistance, including people, blah, 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 of New Zealand. The boat reached Barbados, meaning, now, let me just stop. That same idiot that said what he said about black people not having tight curly hair if they were in the desert, so it could not have been us. That's the same idiot that said that no boat could make it from Africa to the Americas. But I just showed you the documentation that spoke about the second one. The first one failed. Ray 1 failed. It took on water, it got destroyed, and Thor Heyerdahl had to be rescued. But the second people that did it, right, they used similar material. The material they used was not from Africa because they built it in Bolivia. But then they took it to Africa and sailed from Morocco and made it. It was the same material. They just happened to build it in Bolivia as opposed to building it in Africa. And they sailed across because they were trying to prove a point that the currents, the trade currents that go from West Africa would just naturally take you into the Gulf of Mexico or in that area, into the Americas. And that's exactly what happened. Right? And there's more than enough documentation that show this. So when you get idiots running around social media espousing what is true and what is not true based on what they don't know, it makes social media a marketplace of ignorance posing as premises. And they're not premises. It's just ignorance. You know, I always say you can't teach what you don't know. Apparently, he didn't know about the Ray 2. Because if he would have known about the Ray 2, he would have known, number one, that the currents did just that. They made the same type of boat. And let's go back and look at it to make sure, right? It said the following year, 1970, it says a similar vessel. That means a vessel similar to the Ray 1 was built by Demetrio, Juan, and Jose Lamaki of Papyrus. Okay. Okay, now this is disputed. So they showed it a disputation up here. And the disputation is that there is no papyrus in Lake Titicaca or wherever it was that they built it. Yeah, yes, in Bolivia, right? So this person is saying, I think it was Schinoplectus californicus, but a plant that is similar to papyrus, okay? From Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, and likewise set sail across the Atlantic from Morocco, this time with great success. And they tell you a few lines lower that they reached Barbados, thus demonstrating that mariners could have dealt with transatlantic voyages by sailing with the Canary Current. That's what it is, the Canary Current. The Ratu is now in the Kon-Tiki Museum in Oslo, Norway. Okay? Yeah, so you should read about it. I mean, the United Nations was involved with this. Museums in Norway that still house the boat were involved with this. So why listen to an idiot on YouTube running around saying who did what and who didn't? With all due respect, you have highly intelligent people on YouTube, but because it's a level playing field, you also have morons and idiots like that idiot that said what he said. He's just a stupid person. He's really a stupid person. Okay, now I'm going to show you something. Type in, I want you to go to Google and type in Kanem. In fact, I'll do it for you. I'll just type it in. Kanem Bornu. If you want to do it now, you can type in Kanem Bornu. I'll send you a link. Okay. In fact, here you go. I'll send you the link to this right here. Hopefully it'll be enough. Here we go. Cool. Let me send this. Cool. Here we go. All right. Now, I'm going to send you the link so that you can click on it yourself. Okay. I just sent it via email. I can also send it to you in the chat. Okay. In fact, here you go. I just sent it to you in the chat as well. So you have it in the chat and you have it in your email. You can click the link. Let me know once you've been able to do that.
Gotcha.
And you can put it on your screen for the people to see.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, I see. I got it. All right.
Okay?
Yep. It's loading
we
up.
Good?
Yep, I'm going to share my screen now.
Okay. This guy is he's a total moron. I hate to get into name calling, but he's just so stupid. All right. So what you're looking at, if you read beneath the picture, it says the influence of Kanem Empire around 1200 AD. Right. So we're talking about European medieval times. During that period, you had an African empire. Do you see how this is Kanem Bornu? Do you see where the northern part is? It's up in the same desert regions he's talking about, right? Do you see where the southern part of that kingdom is? It goes into that same equatorial area he's talking about. And these are black people, black Africans. Unless he's going to say Kanem Bornu was not a black African empire, which shows how stupid he really is. So if you got, this is all the way in the desert. And what did he say? He said, black people in the desert have different hair from black people in equatorial Africa, like in West Africa or in the Congo region. That's the mind of a child. That's the mind of a child. Not to mention. So what do we do with Nubia? We throw Nubia out of the way, and we know the Nubians were black, bliggity black. The ancient Egyptians drew them so with nappy hair. They made sure to show you that the hair was nappy. Look, I don't know if you can see let me see. Oh, you can't see my cursor. Can I share my screen? Yeah, I should be able to share my screen, right? Yeah, so I just.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, we still
share my screen. Share screen, and I'm going to share this right here. And no, I shared the wrong thing. Hold on, stop. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, right? Yeah, the amount of ignorance is just, it makes me nauseous. It's one of the reasons why I really stopped dealing with people, because I just can't deal with the ignorance. It's too embarrassing, you know? So it really is. So let me know when you're ready, because I'm sharing my screen right now.
Yes, I'm ready. Okay, let me know when you're ready so I can add it to the screen.
All right, can you see it? Tell me if you see the map of Cannon Bornu on my screen.
Is this it right here?
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can you see my cursor moving?
Yes, I can see your cursor moving.
Okay, great. So this is Cannon Bornu. Nubia was over here. This is desert. He's telling us, what were the Nubians? Italians? Were they Irish?
Damn.
This dude is an idiot. I mean, he's a straight up idiot. Nubia is right here. Are you saying that Kush is in the desert? Are you saying that the Kushites were not black? Were they Italian? Were they Chinese? Were they Japanese? This dude is an idiot. I mean, he's a first A class idiot.
Wow.
He is. I mean, he needs a historical GPS like Stevie Wonder needs sight. I mean, this dude is an idiot. You know, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There's so many black Africans from this region and area that one would hardly know where to begin. Really, one would hardly know where to begin. Right? Are you saying that Mauritania was not black people? Are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's insane. Many of these desert regions up here, Niger is desert. That's here. Niger is desert. Or even the Sahel. The Sahel is all black. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to quote something, okay? In fact, I'm going to put it in the chat, and I'll let you read it out loud so people won't think I'm making it up. Because he just, I've tried not to respond to that person. Many people want me to debate him. I'm just
you know about him. I mean, you know of him. Oh,
look, to be quite honest, we used to be acquaintances. We actually used to talk by phone. He used to identify with the Kemetic community. He used to call himself Best, God Best. But for some reason, he had this great awakening that the ancient Egyptians were not black and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And he just got stupid overnight. So I don't know what happened, but I don't want to make this interview about him. So this is just the fact of the matter. I mean, the dude he's special education material. And that's actually an insult to people in special education because they're smarter than he is. So, and not only that, special education is not it's not a reflection of someone's smartness or lack thereof. Last 30 years. Yeah. Roman domination. All right. So, did you look in the chat?
Okay. I can remove this map right here, right?
Yes, you can. Okay. If you want to remove that map, you can. And I'm also sending it to you via email so that you can read this. I want you to read it out loud for your audience. Okay. You can
Roman exploitation, the Roman exploitation taxation.
Yes.
And ruthlessness caused a lot of original Africans in North Africa. Let me say that again. Roman exploitation, taxation, and ruthlessness caused a lot of original Africans in North Africa, which we would just explain what here to move further into the body of Africa. The question is often asked, what happened to North African black population? This is the part of the answer. The drying up of the area that later became the Sahara had begun to occur over 2,000 years before the Romans arrived. This population also migrated into Inner Africa, the Arab invasion of Egypt, and the last 30 years of the Roman denomination. Now, and this is the reference you gave me down here?
Yeah. Now, why don't you click the link and put it on the screen for your people to see the book?
Okay.
This is what that genius is not, he's apparently unaware of. They said the original Africans. They didn't say the Africans that are there today or those people who are there today who are not Africans. Those people in North Africa today are not Africans. They're descendants of invaders and immigrants. They were not always there. That's like saying the Sahara was always desert. The Sahara was not always desert. So he's got to have an 8th grade education and has never gone beyond.
Trying to wait for this to load up, man. All slow for no reason today. Wow. And I'm glad you cleared that up because.
Are you going to put it on your screen? The book?
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to load up a little bit.
Oh, okay. I've already got it up if you want me to share my screen.
Yeah, because this thing we move.
That's not a problem. I can share my screen. Here we go. So I'll just come here. Come here. I do things in a matter of seconds, so it's no problem at all. Here we go. All right, and put it up on the screen. I'm sharing my screen.
Gotcha.
See that?
Yeah.
The Arab invasion of Egypt in the last 30 years of the Roman dominion. Okay? It was republished in 1992, but that's an old book. Right? That book was published in like I think 1902 or something like that. Some late period. I mean, some early period rather. And yeah, and Dr. John Henry Clark wrote the foreword. Okay? Dr. John Henry Clark, Professor Emeritus of Hunter College, New York, wrote the foreword to that book.
Wow.
And what you read was part of the foreword. The book was written by Alfred E. Butler. Dr. John Henry Clark wrote the foreword. What you just read came from the foreword of that book. Okay? And he's explaining to you that the original Africans of North Africa migrated into inner Africa, those same regions he was pointing to. So to sit there and say that they're different people because there's this imaginary line that separates them, it's absolutely stupid. You can't really call it anything else. You just have to call it what it is. It's stupid. You follow? Am I here alone? Okay, I guess I'm the only one here because he seems to have disappeared, so I'm going to have to carry the show. This is strange. This has never happened to me before. Normally, if somebody disappears, it's me. And so welcome to the Shakka Ahmose Hour, everyone. Because my host seems to be gone. And it clearly says that I'm here still in the show. Okay. Wow. Well, yeah, that's why certain arguments or certain discussions I try to avoid because it just gets annoying. You have people that want to pass themselves off as authorities on subject matter that they don't know anything about, and they contaminate people with their ignorance. And then I got to come along and answer very, very elementary questions that there should be no confusion about at this stage. That's the only thing I hate about the knowledge game is that you could do a lot of great work, and then there's always the idiot that will come along and undo all of the great work that you did. Create doubt in people for no reason. But I say when somebody's creating doubt in your mind, look it up. Go do the research so that you can respond on your own for yourself. So if you forgive me, when I speak, my lips tend to get dry, and I hate that, so I just put a little bit of what is this? Rose hips oil on it and vitamin E. So I'm under the impression that so unfortunately, so anyway, I carried the show for you while you were gone.
Thank you, man.
Don't mention it. Yeah, no problem. I just carried it for you. And at first I was like, wait a minute, am I the only one here, or like what's going on? So I mean, I've been on shows before. I know that happens with these things.
Yeah, and I know you're good at that. Like when you go, you get your point across.
Yeah, I was going. I was just basically saying that that's one of the reasons why some arguments I try not to get into. Like people tried to get me to debate him, and I'm like, I'm not. The arguments that he's making are so elementary. It's like it would be like arguing with a first grader about calculus. It's like, dude, do I really have to waste my time answering questions like this? This stuff, this is the kindergarten stuff. You should be able to get past this easy. And here you are spreading your confusion and contaminating people with your ignorance because he thinks that black people in the desert have a different kind of hair from black people in equatorial Africa. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That is what about the Sudan? What about the Sudan, the largest country in Africa? What about the Sudan? Well, it was before it got broken up into North Sudan and Southern Sudan. But what about the Sudan? Them people ain't black. A lot of that is in desert area. Yes. So, he's just an ignorant black dude from the hood in California who wants to be heard, and he gets frustrated when nobody listens to him, and that's just what it is. So let's move on to something else. Normally, I have a list of questions that I like for interviewers to ask me, and I send it to the interviewer. And here's what I'm going to do, just to help you along with this, because I think that your audience would really appreciate it. Is I'm actually going to send you. First, I'm going to. Yeah, I'm actually going to send you. I'm going to email you those questions right now, and hopefully, now watch this. The way I do this is, you don't have to ask me those questions, but if you want to, I just want to make them available to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, go ahead, shoot them.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's why: it's because a lot of times there are questions that people should, in fact, ask that they don't know that they should ask. Make sense to you?
Definitely.
And quite often, that makes the experience a little frustrated for me, because I'm like, oh my God, when is this person going to get to the good questions so I can give some really good answers that will make people be like, wow, I'm really glad that I caught that, right? So not that the questions that you asked aren't good. They've been great. They've been pretty darn good questions. So let me see. Where is hold on. Here they go. Here they go right here. Okay. Yeah, here we go. So I'm just going to send you this whole thing just so you have it. Okay. Okay. I'm going to take this and notables, and I'm going to send this right to you right now. And so now, bam, you have them. Okay. So it's it's my bio and things of that nature. But if you look down, it says top 10 favorite questions to be asked. Okay, and so feel free to look through any of those questions. In other words, we don't have to start with those. You can ask me whatever else that you want to ask me, and as I'm answering the question, you can take your time and look through those.
Well, okay. Well, first one off the whoa, man.
What do you think? Before you even ask me, what do you think about those questions?
They're focused on the community. It's like getting to know what then, on some questions.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
In America, on average, Now, I don't think it's still true anymore because most black people don't even go to church anymore. Okay.
Right.
You have a minority of black people going to church. Okay. But traditionally, growing up in America, what was the very first school that all black people went to in their life?
Like, I'm talking about like elementary wise or just
period. What was the first school all black people went to in their life?
Public school?
I'm going to tell you. No, it wasn't public school. The first school that all black people went to growing up in America, even when I was a kid, because I had to go, was Sunday school. Everybody had to go to Sunday school.
Yeah, you had to go to Sunday school.
From the time you was a little kid, you had to go to Sunday school. You had to sit with the other kids in a circle, maybe give you a Bible coloring book or something like that. I don't know what the heck it was. I don't remember what we did there, right? But so if your first school is, which is what's going to shape your worldview, is based on bullshit, then what do you think you really need to do to reverse the process? You have to undo what was done to you at the beginning. And what was done to us at the beginning was Sunday school. That's why the name of my other platform is Sunday School with Shakka Ahmose, where I bring you back to where it all started, and we straighten some shit out.
We straighten some shit out, huh?
We straighten some shit out. This is where the pastor lied. This is where your mommy lied. This is where your daddy lied. This is where they're still lying to themselves, and this is why they lied to you. So now we're gonna, this is what I tell people. You can't get angry about your parents for what they taught you about religion, because for the most part, most people's parents are not historians. Most people's parents don't know shit about history. You understand what I'm saying? So you're going to tell your child who and what God is, but you're not a historian? You don't know anything about the ancient world? I mean, that's retarded. That's stupid. I mean, even when your child gets a grade in school, you still want to see the report card. You're not going to just take your child's word for it, right? You know what I'm saying? Oh, hey, Mom, I got straight A's every semester. I got straight A's, right?
Let me see that.
Let me see that. Okay. The problem with black people in the black community is we got this little traditional Sunday school education that was passed down from our grandparents to our parents to us, and we just happy with being ignorant. And if your beginning starts with ignorance, and everything else that you build up is built on top of that ignorance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, break that down.
Everything else you build, you got to take that ignorance that's holding all of that up and get rid of it so all of that could fall.
Man, all that could fall. Wow.
Yeah, you have to. Unless you just happy being ignorant. And some people are happy being ignorant. Whole lot of them. Just talk to some of your Christian relatives. Woo! What? Man. They don't. That is the ignorant boat of all boats.
Man, I mean, going to the cookouts, like pre-COVID and stuff. But going to the cookouts, man, and they knew, like, during my first awakening, man, they was mad. They were mad. They were angry. That I didn't roll with what I've been embedded with all these years and forced.
They were angry that you didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
That's why they were angry. They were angry that you didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
That I stopped drinking that Kool-Aid.
Right. You stopped drinking the Kool-Aid.
I was tearing it up.
Absolutely.
I was tearing it up.
So one of the first things to do when it comes to black mental health is, and people don't realize the relationship between the Bible and black mental health. Like, there is a very distinct relationship. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that the Bible is all bad. What I am saying is that the Bible can be very bad if it's misunderstood, and if people mistake the Bible for one thing when it's actually something else. And because of the culture that we grew up in, remember we talked about assimilation? Well, most black people in this country are assimilated.
Yeah.
Period. And remember, when you assimilate, one thing increases while something else decreases. So what have we grown into? We've grown into a lost community. That's it. We're lost.
Now, where is that caused? From that foundation?
Yes, of course it is. Yes. You didn't come over here believing, now people like to get into the argument that Christianity was in Africa before the slave trade. That's a fact. Nobody's arguing that. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing against that. Right? And Christianity was in West Africa prior to the explosion of the transatlantic slave trade. It was there. It was in the Congo. Okay? But what you also have to remember is that those Africans that converted to Christianity, the first thing they did was they turned around and they enslaved their fellow Africans. It was the first thing they did because they weren't Christians. They saw them as infidels. Okay? The same rationale that the Pope used when he told Portugal and Spain to reduce to servitude or infidels, those who are not Christians. Okay? And that played a role both with the Muslims and the Christians, because I mean Islam is nothing but a twisted form of Christianity, right? So
right.
It's all it's all a bunch of BS. But the reality of it is that in order to get with the get right in your mind, you have to go back to where we went wrong, where we went left when we should have went right. Okay? And now, mind you, now I'm going to tell you something. And I don't often say this. I probably should say it more often. The true history of the Bible, if I may say this, the true history of the Bible is far more complicated and complex than most people care to imagine or would even dare to think. Now, to me, it is one of the most interesting whodunits and subject matters that anyone can discuss. The problem is that most people don't have the tools to discuss it. I'll give you an example. The rapper T.I., who I personally appreciate as a person, he was on his platform expeditiously.
Right.
And he was interviewing Charlemagne the God, and I can't remember who the third person was, but it was the three of them talking about the Bible, the black church, so on and so on. And I get so frustrated and angry when I listen to them have these discussions because none of them know anything about the subject matter to the point that they can really have a meaningful discussion about it. Right. And then I'm sitting there saying, guys, why don't you just have me on your show so we can just like settle this for black people? We could say what is and what is not. You know, this is true, this is not true. Okay? So your gain is their loss. Now people are going to have to come to JP TV to get it. They have to come to JP TV to get it. So, so do you have any questions about the Bible? That's basically that is the trip that I'm on.
My question about the Bible is,
or any question about Christianity?
I already know it's some bullshit, you know. A lot of my cousins and stuff, are now shifting to the belief of Yeshua now instead of saying Jesus. Oh, no, the real. I'm talking about. It wasn't Jesus. It was Yeshua.
It's just more bullshit. It's just more bullshit.
So
it's just more bullshit.
Now, where did they get that name Yeshua from?
It's irrelevant.
Is it connected to Jesus? Is it Jesus in the?
It's irrelevant, and I'm gonna tell you why it's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's irrelevant because for a number of reasons. First and foremost, for a number of reasons, it's irrelevant. You see, let me tell you what the Christian community does and what religious people do. What they do is, when you call them on one thing and you expose it for what it is, then they say, oh, well, it's not really that, it's actually this. Now, what they do is they rewrap the same thing you just exposed, and they rewrap it, remarket it, and re-promote it to you with another name or with another pronunciation of the same name. Okay? So that's like me telling my kid, Santa Claus is real. It's just that he's not called Santa Claus. He's called Saint Nick. So now you can get into the history of Saint Nick. You understand? And I'm not saying that there was not a Saint Nicholas, but just because there may have been a Saint Nicholas, does that make Santa Claus real? No. Of course not. So, even if there was a Yeshua, does that make Jesus of the biblical narrative real? Of course not. So it's irrelevant. Just because you changing the name, you still trying to give me the same story. You're just telling me to use a different name. And when I'm telling you the story is fake and it's bogus and it's phony. Okay? And the reason for that is that if you ever want to look at a dictionary under the word misunderstand, and you will see a black person's face, because we are the poster children for not understanding. There's just so much that we don't understand. It's not even funny. When I tell you, when I tell you there is so much, I'm talking strictly about the Bible. There is so much that black people do not understand. It is mind-blowing. But it can only be mind-blowing to you if you actually understand. Okay? So I'm going to help you out with this and your audience so that they can understand how to deal with this issue. Can we do that for a few minutes?
Yeah, let's go, Chuck.
Okay. So the two things that you need to do in order to what I call mastering the Bible question, teach you how to master the Bible question, or to use the name of my course that I'm putting together. It's called Unlocking Christianity, or it's called Christianity Unlocked. And so, and I hate that name, but my business manager came up with it. So she likes it, whatever. And the people seem to like it, so I'm going with it. The two most important things you need to know about finally, for once and for all, mastering the Bible question. There are two things you have to first get under your belt. Are you okay? Two things. One is your approach. And the other one is the mindset. If you approach the Bible with the wrong mindset, everything that you think you know about it is going to be wrong.
Right.
Everything. And you have a lot of people, 99.9% of the people that you meet will have the wrong mindset about the Bible. Okay? So I did something when I was living in Florida a year ago. I took a camera crew and I went to Miami Beach and I filmed it, and I asked all of the people walking by me one question, and they all gave me the same answer. The question that I asked was, what is the oldest book in the world?
Bible.
Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible, the Bible, the Bible. It didn't matter what color they were. It didn't matter what sex they were. It didn't matter if they were short, tall, skinny, pretty, ugly, couple. Everybody, the Bible.
Yeah.
I have it on YouTube. You can see it. I'm out on the beach asking people this because I wanted to prove a point that black people, and in particular, when I talk about these subject matters, I constantly reference black people because that's my community. That's my immediate community.
All right.
Okay? Black people, when it comes to the Bible, are profoundly ignorant. And I mean profoundly ignorant. That includes the Christian apologists, the urban apologists, the black pastors, the black Christian scholars. They are all profoundly, they're more ignorant than the average church person that doesn't know anything. And I'll tell you why. So first, let's get the mindset straight. To get the mindset straight, you have to divorce fantasy from reality. Okay? So in this case, we're going to use another word to supplant the word fantasy. We're going to use the word mythology. Okay? Mythology. So let me just make it real simple for your audience and for yourself. All of these religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, right? They all have what's called two beginnings. Okay? They all have two beginnings. One beginning is based in real history. Okay? Real documented history. If you know how to follow the historical record, all of these religions have a beginning in real history. But what each one of these religions have in common is that what they all did for themselves. First of all, we're talking about religion. So if we're talking about religion, as the creator of the religion, you're not a historian, you are a religious arbiter. And what they did was they created what's called a mythological beginning for themselves. That's what I mean when I say they all have two beginnings. They have a real history, and then they have a mythological history. And the mythological history is usually created by the people within the religion, right? They have to give an explanation for where their religion came from, and they create this mythological history. But what they've done, and this includes both Judaism and Christianity, but Christianity is the most guilty of all. And Islam did it too. What they've done is, and this is the insidious part, they took their mythological history and they supplanted the real history with their mythological story of how they began. You understand?
Yes.
Remember I said black people are irrelevant questions? That's an irrelevant question. Which organized religion came first is irrelevant. Why? Because they all did the same thing. They all did the same thing. They all created a mythological history, and they supplanted the real history with the mythological history. So, and what they did was they grafted the mythological history onto the record. That's what they did. And Christianity is the most notorious one for doing it. Okay? So now, this should have your mindset together so that as we traverse down this path, you begin to understand directionally how you have to think. Make sense? Morpheus? Does it make sense, Morpheus? Okay. Okay. So you Morpheus, I'm gonna do my Neo job. Okay. So people swallowing some black pills up in here tonight. So basically, so now that's the mindset. The mindset is understanding what each of these religions did. They took their mythological history and they grafted it on to the historical record. And the only way you could do that was you had to have what's called an hegemony over the literary world. You had to have control over the literary world at the time that your religion came to power. And so therefore you could write a fictitious beginning of your history. Okay? So and as most religions, or all religions pretty much, make a claim to the divine, then what kind of mythological history are you going to give your religion? A divine mythology. Right. And that's what they all have in common. They have a divine mythology. Now, what you need to know is that ancient Egypt was no different. Ancient Egypt did the exact same thing, except ancient Egypt did it first. So when you study the history of Egypt, right? When you study the history of Egypt, when they told their history, they told it in terms of their divine mythology, right? They give you their cosmology, their divine cosmology. In the beginning, there was Noon, right? The father of the gods, and then Atum became self-aware, and he could find no place to stand, right? And he sent out his eye to search for a place to stand or whatever, right? The eye gets lost. This is the eye of Re, right? Sekhmet goes out to find it, or Ma'at goes out to find it, and they bring it back. And then you get this story about Shu, Tefnut, Nut, Geb, and then the what's called the Ennead, right? Osiris, Isis, Set, Nebhet, who else? I forget who else, right? But there's a few other ones, 4 other ones. I think Ampu may have been one of them. I'm not sure. Anubis. But the bottom line is that this, and they say from these people, humanity spread out, right? And they also tell you in the Egyptian religion, or in their divine mythology, that mankind was created from the tears of Re. Okay, from the tears of Atum. You follow? Have you ever heard that before? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what they're calling the tears of Atum are actually the rays of the sun. They call the rays of the sun the tears of Atum. Okay? All right. So, now that's their divine mythology. But when you study the real history of Egypt and the historical record, there ain't no Atum, there ain't no Shu, there ain't no Geb, there's not even an Osiris. Ain't none of that.
Really?
No.
Hold up now, Shakka.
No, ain't none of that. See, this is what I mean. People confuse divine mythology with the historical record. Right? The real history of ancient Egypt has to do with basic human shit. Markets, business, money, taxes, war, territory, expansionism. And did I say markets? Because you got to always repeat markets. Right? It was market forces that brought ancient Egypt into existence. It had nothing to do with Re and all this other stuff. Right? That's the divine mythology.
Okay.
The real history has to do with markets, market forces. And you have to understand the evolution of market forces in the Upper Nile Valley region, or really just in the ancient world period, because it wasn't just the Upper Nile Valley, but particularly to understand ancient Egypt, you have to understand the market forces in the Nile Valley, particularly in Upper Egypt, really in that border area, that border town between Egypt and Sudan, or what they call modern day Nubia, right? In that region there, market forces brought what today we call a state. So I always tell people, when you're talking about Egypt, right, you have to make the distinction between the country and the state. Okay? You have to make the distinction between the country and the state. So ancient Egypt, originally, you were talking about the state. You really couldn't say the country. Well, you could say the country, but you have to remember the borders were always changing. So one minute, here we go again. Was Kemet a metropolis? Another irrelevant question. It's irrelevant. With all due respect, it's irrelevant to what I'm talking about. Was it a metropolis? It was a state. Deal with that. It was a state. First and foremost, ask yourself, what is a state? Well, what is the first thing that defines a state? What are they fighting over in Russia and Ukraine right now? Borders. That's what it's all about, borders. It's about nothing else. It's about changing the borders of Ukraine. And by the time they're done with that war, Ukraine is going to have brand new borders. That's what statehood is all about. Right? You talk about the state of your mind. Right? You're talking about a place where something begins and something else ends. This is where the outside world ends. This is where my inner thinking begins. Right? It's contained. It's contained in an area. The state. It's containment. That's what it is. It is a containment. That's what a state is. And that's what ancient Egypt was. But what brought it about were market forces. Market forces. That means the production and the buying and selling of goods. Business. That's what brought ancient Egypt about. Okay? If you took my course, Chemonomics, you would know that. I show you all of the documentation. And not only that, this was so true that there was never a time in their history where they could divorce themselves from this fact. So when you really truly study their religion, I always tell people, when you take my course, the one thing you'll learn is that ancient Egypt always had one religion. They had one religion that was personified two different ways. The true religion of ancient Egypt was business. That's number one. That's the true, that is the fact. The true religion of ancient Egypt was business. If you try to think about it any other way, you're going to be wrong and incorrect. Okay? That's the true religion of ancient Egypt. Now, I said it was expressed in two different ways. It was expressed in two different ways. Most people don't realize this. You had the religion of the rich and you had the religion of the poor. Most people don't realize this. That's why I ask people today, do you think you and Mark Zuckerberg have the same religion? Do you think you and Elon Musk have the same religion? Then you're a fool. Because if you had the same religion, you would yield the same results.
Straight up.
Okay? And it was me. Actually, I was in a relationship with a millionaire, a woman who happens to be a millionaire. And it was being in that relationship and just studying business that began to really change my eye. The thing that really that sharpened my eye. That's not what changed my eye from the religious aspect. What changed my eye, what caused my eye to grow, was reading Black Athena by Martin Bernal. And when he touched on slavery in ancient Egypt and spoke about how prevalent it was in the Middle Kingdom and how the slaves had been Indo-Europeans taken from Asia Minor or Asia, right? The Anatolia area, and marched back to Egypt to work in the mines, and also work in the mines in the Baltic regions as well. And so when I heard that, and I realized that that was committed to documentation by Herodotus and others, it caused me to look at ancient Egypt differently. And I felt like I was being, that there were these two stories, these two narratives about ancient Egypt that were fighting for your attention. And I realized that one of them was definitely wrong. And the wrong one is the one that attempts to make Egypt this this place that is just absorbed in religiosity. And the reason why I say that is that the reason people think that is that they don't understand ancient Egypt. So they think that ancient Egypt was this exceedingly religious place. It was not. It was an exceedingly economic place. And because people don't have economic spectacles to put on their eyes, if you are a Black American, you only got religious spectacles. That's our primary way of processing everything, right? Let a Black woman get traumatized in the subway. What's the first thing you're going to hear? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, Lord. It's going to come out like a fart. You understand? Because we're predispositioned to do that by our culture and our training. Everything is religious. But to understand ancient Egypt as it really was, you got to take those religious glasses off and you have to put on the economic glasses. And when you put on the economic glasses and you study their economics, then you realize, oh, these people was about this. They wasn't about all this other silly shit. You know, the poor people were. But if you don't, and that was another thing that made me realize something, because spending time around millionaires, I just began to look at the things that they worry about and how they solve their problems versus the way poor people worry about things and how they solve their problems or don't solve their problems. And I began to realize that, wait a minute, there's a different level of preoccupation. One group of people is preoccupied with a certain way of thinking. The other group is preoccupied with another way of thinking, right? So I'll give you an example of what I mean, right? Rich people, wealthy people do not spend a lot of time on guilt or feeling bad, okay? They ain't got time for that, right? You can't be Warren Buffett sitting around feeling guilty. You too busy counting money. You too busy counting money.
Yeah,
right? You can't be George Soros getting caught up in some guilt trip about something, or it just doesn't it's not the way that they think. That's why I see people think Donald Trump is some kind of unique thing amongst wealthy people. He's not. Wealthy people don't give a fuck about guilt. They don't really care about it. That guilt is not something that is a motivator, or that it's not something that can propel you to wealth. Poor people have an over preoccupation with guilt. You understand? Mm-hmm. They have an over preoccupation with guilt. And you know that this was the case in ancient Egypt, because when they looked at the text describing the state religion, there was nothing in those texts that dealt with sin or guilt. Zero. Nothing. But when they looked at the texts that were democratized for the masses, everything was about behavior and guilt and feeling bad and pleasing God. And yeah, the religion of the rich versus the religion of the poor. See, people don't understand this because they don't have any real knowledge about ancient Egypt and how things really work. What I ended up doing was reading Martin Bernal's expose on ancient Egypt caused me to marry ancient Egypt to the real world. And once I did that, I was able to go back into their text and everything began to make sense. There are things that I can show you right now that would absolutely blow your mind. To show you that what I'm saying is 100% correct. Would blow your mind. Blow your mind. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these netters, right? the Neteru that people love to talk about. Ma'at. Tahuti. Renentet. Right? All of these different Neteru, they all dealt with wealth. It was all about money, business. That's what they represented. But because black people got religious spectacles on, all they can see is the religious aspect of it. So they don't really understand it. Right? But once you take off those religious spectacles and you put on the business spectacles, then ancient Egypt will make much more sense to you. You'll understand what their motivation was. I'll give you an example. So when people look at ancient Egypt, they think that everybody was walking around dressed nice and everybody was walking around with tombs. Right. And no, that was a small elite. That was 5% of the people. 5% of the people. What's 5% of 10 million? Well, whatever 5% of 10 million is, that's how many people were walking around like that. Everybody else was struggling to make ends meet. The majority of the people ain't had shit. They were poor. They were broke. And it was them being poor and broke that propped up the elite class. You understand? It was all created out of a hierarchy that was agreed upon during the pre-dynastic period. But a lot of people don't know this history because they think they're going to learn it studying ancient Egypt. You're not going to learn it studying ancient Egypt. You're going to learn it studying ancient economics. Okay? When you study economics of antiquity, that's when you'll start getting all the answers that you were looking for. And you'll realize, none of this shit had anything to do with religion. We religified it. That's what we did. We religified all of it, and we became a bunch of religious spiritual gooks, bunch of fucking religious hippies. That's what the fuck you have today running around calling themselves the Kemetic community and all this bullshit. They're not. They're no different than Hare Krishnas. All they did was put an ankh on it and scream Hotep. But they're no different. And that's why they don't like me, because I tell the truth. You know? Except for the few who were smart enough to actually come and study under me. And then once they see the documentation, they're like, holy shit, he's telling the truth. Yes. I don't have anything to hide. It's not an ego question. It's just a question of, and then the worst ones are the ones who speak, read, and write Medu Neter, because they're taking a philologist approach. You cannot take a philologist approach to try to understand the underpinnings of a civilization. You can't do that. Let me ask you a question. If you go to the grocery store, can you pay for your food with language and words, or do you need something else?
Use something else.
You get the point? So studying a language alone is not going to yield to you what I call the big picture or the everything that you're looking for. It's not. Because how do I know that? Europe did it. The Europeans did it. They tried to use philology during the 19th century, and they thought that was going to crack open everything they wanted to know about the past. And they quickly discovered over a century or so, nope. They came to a lot of incorrect conclusions, because language is very subjective. Language is expressed in many different genres. You have propaganda. You have all kinds of stuff that's not true. You have fiction. Right? You have historical fiction. So you have all of these things that people are reading, and they think that because they can understand it, that this is therefore the truth. No, it doesn't work like that. In our society in which we live today, there's only one truth that and everybody knows it. Money talks, bullshit does what? Walk.
Everybody understand that language.
Now watch this. That's true now, and that was true 7,000 years ago.
It's going to stay true.
And it's going to stay true. Money talk, bullshit walk. That was true in Egypt. So until you take that approach, you will never understand Egypt. You'll be on the outside talking about Hare Krishna, Hotep, Hare Krishna, Hare. Yeah, you're just a fucking hippie from the 60s, thinking that you're being Kemetic, and you're not. You want to be Kemetic? Learn accounting. Now you're being comedic. You want to be comedic? Learn how to balance books. You want to be comedic? Create a tax system that actually works, that flows from the bottom to the top. Do that. Do that. People talk about the Shimsu whore. They don't even understand what the whole Shimsu whore thing was about. All of that shit was about business and money. All of it. All of it. So one of the things we understand, let's get back to the Bible. One of the things that we understand, that we need to understand very quickly, is that remember I told you there are people who think the Bible is the oldest book in the world? Mm-hmm. All right, so the first question you got to ask is, where was true writing created? I'm waiting for an answer because I always ask questions.
From what I learned, it was I'm not an expert in this, but
that's all right. We don't need excuses. All we need are answers.
It was in papyrus. Am I saying that correctly? And
where in Egypt? Okay, you answered the question correctly. True writing was first created in Egypt, in Upper Egypt. Okay, there was a reason for it, and it was not related to religion. All right, I'm drinking this stuff is so great, man. I highly recommend it.
What is it, man?
Go get 3 bags of grapes, and then 2 containers of blueberries, right? And then just put them in your blender and put them on high blend, right? And after you blend it, fill the rest up with water and just put it and let it, bro, you're going to fall in love.
Man, you know what? That's a great fiber intake.
It's the antioxidants that you want.
Man, I'm going to start drinking that because you know what I just been through.
Bro.
I need that.
Yo, that stuff is incredible. But so it's real simple. This is how you deal with the Bible thing. I'm not going to even make you stretch for it. All you have to understand is this. True writing was created in ancient Egypt. And then you ask the next question. The next time you're with your Christian families, ask them these questions.
Okay.
You ain't even got to get into a long argument with them. If they talk that Jesus stuff and that Bible stuff, this is what you say to them. You say, where was true writing created? They're not going to know. So you tell them. True writing was created in Upper Egypt. You follow? The second question you're going to ask is, where was the book industry created on planet Earth? Where was the book industry created? Do you know what the answer to that question is? JP?
You said the book created.
I got a question. Do you have a chat where you can see the comments from your listeners?
Yeah.
Yeah, see if any of them know. Where was the book industry created?
Now it's not the Gutenberg people or nothing like that, right? Whatever the name is, right? I think it was. I'm not sure. That's just what I heard.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. All right. The book industry was created in the same place where true writing was created. It makes sense. Think about it. So if true writing was created in Upper Egypt, then where do you think the book industry was created? In Egypt.
Same people.
Same people. Now, if true writing was created in ancient Egypt, and if the book industry was created in ancient Egypt, what that means is all books, no matter what country they're from, and no matter who wrote them, no matter the person's race, sex, all books are children of ancient Egypt. And that includes the Bible. Understand that. Why? Because true writing was created in ancient Egypt. Without writing, you have no Bible. in the discussion. Okay? The Bible is a book. The book industry was created in ancient Egypt. Without that book industry, you have no Bible. It's that simple. It's that simple. So that's the approach that you take. You start at the beginning, writing and books. That's what the Bible is at the end of the day, writing and books. So where is true writing created? In ancient Egypt. Where was the book industry created? Ancient Egypt. That's simple. Okay. Now, when you say the book industry, you have to clarify for people because they mean like the book industry. The book industry. Well, what is the book industry? The book industry is a composite industry made up of various different industries or various different professions. Let me give you an example. In the book industry, you have people who literally make the physical book. Okay? You have people who make the physical book. Okay? The book manufacturers. In the book industry, you have people who write the books. These are the authors. The authors are not necessarily the same people. Look at the woman that made Harry Potter. She wrote a book called Harry Potter. Do you think she made the physical book?
Right.
She did not make the physical book. That's not her job. That's not what she does. That's a different industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's book manufacturing. Okay? Not only that, if she took that book, the first thing she had to do with that book was she had to get it published. The book manufacturer is not a publisher. The author, unless they're self-published, is not a publisher, traditionally speaking. So that means you had to have book manufacturers, book authors, book publishers, and who's the most important one? The book sellers. You got to have somebody to sell it. Right? But then what's the fifth one, which is the really most important one? You got to have somebody to buy it. That is the book industry. Oh, I forgot the distributor. Because the seller and the distributor are not necessarily the same. So that's 6 key things here. All of these industries were created in Egypt, in Africa, in Egypt. But people don't know this history.
All right.
So when it comes to the Bible, in the book industry, the Bible was a very, very late book. Very, very late. An insignificant book. It really was. It wasn't nothing of no real importance to people. Where do you find the earliest Christian manuscripts? Most of them were found in trash heaps. Yeah, where? In Egypt.
In Egypt.
People, I mean, these Christians are stupid. I mean, especially the apologists. They want to tell you that ancient Egyptian religion had nothing to do with Christianity, but all of their earliest manuscripts come out of Egypt. Like, what are you, stupid? Your first book, your first gospel, Mark, upon which the other gospels are developed, Egypt. Egypt. The narrative actually takes place in Egypt. He's supposed to be in Egypt.
Can't get away from Egypt.
You will not ever be able to get away from Egypt in this narrative, in this story, because that's where it all came from. That's where it all came from. Right? When I say all, I'm using the term all euphemistically because in the particularly in the Old Testament, there were other writings inclusive in it. Writings from Babylon, writings from Ugarit, Syria, and Canaanitic culture. But the majority of it, the majority of the apparatus came out of Egypt. Straight up, it came out of Egypt. And so these are the things that I want people to know about the Bible. It gets much deeper, more intricate detail. I love the documentation, but I don't start showing documentation until people actually come to study with me. When you study with me, I'm on my channel. That's when I'm going to whip out all the documentation for you to see it. Right? I got to give you a reason to come and spend some time with me, right? But I'm just telling you that this is the way it goes. This is the way it's understood. So that by the time the Bible came to be written, if you ask these religious idiots why the Bible was written, they don't even know why. They have no idea why. Because they don't know history. There were historical reasons that led to the writing of the Bible. It has nothing to do with God at all. Nothing to do with God. Okay? But if you don't know history, God is just a variable that you use in an equation to say, I don't know. Anytime you don't know something, you just say God.
Yeah.
So therefore, God is the poster child for your ignorance. That's all.
That's it. That means they don't know.
That means they don't know. Why was this written? Because God, so you don't know, basically. You don't know the history of the book. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, I'm going to shift gears right now because I know we're working on time on people.
That's right.
Enjoy the, I'm going to put you in the hot box, baby.
It's time to shift gears.
Okay, this is where we want to have a little bit of fun, It's kind of like a...
I know what the hot box is. I've been around.
yeah. I want to first ask you your latest interview with Jesse Lee Peterson. How was that experience? And did you learn anything from it?
Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. I think that instead of people calling him an Uncle Tom, they should just call him Uncle Jesse, because that's what he reminds me of. He reminds me of that one uncle that you can't wait to come to the barbecue, because at least he's going to have something to debate and argue about. At least he's not like them other boring-ass relatives. Like me, I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't really interact with my relatives because most of them are what I call run-of-the-mill African-Americans. They believe like African-Americans. They think like African-Americans. There's no depth there at all. There's no depth. Very, very surface. And so typical African-American concerns. And to me, all of that shit is surface. It doesn't do anything for me, right? And so at least with Jesse Lee Peterson, he likes a debate. He likes to poke and pod. You understand what I'm saying? He wants to really see where people are. Now, he doesn't have the level of education that I have when it comes to history.
Right.
But he is smart enough to know that something is wrong. Not only is something wrong, but something's wrong with African Americans. He's unable to put his finger on it. That's all. And what I tried to do with that experience was to help him do a few things. One, I wanted to help him see the big picture a little clearer. And then two, I wanted to help him see himself in relationship to us and the big picture a little clearer. And from what I understand, from what I was told, I pretty much accomplished that on multiple levels. So I was very grateful for the experience. I didn't care for the fact that they put up the wrong logo when they showed the Nile Valley movement, because that's not my logo. I don't know where that came from. It came from somebody trying to emulate me. Right. And I'm just like, dude, I have my own logos. Like, just hit me up. So other than that, it was a great experience. It was a wonderful experience. And I hope I get invited to come back. I don't think we had a long enough time to speak. Even on his show, I mentioned to him, black people enslaved white people first. He really knew what to do with that. You would have think Jesse Lee Peterson, of all people, would have jumped on that. But he didn't. He just said, I believe it, and that was it. It kept moving, right? So it was like, that's what I mean when I say this is the conversation they're not ready to have. You know? Most people are uncomfortable having conversations in which they are unable to really contribute in a meaningful way. And that's understandable. But did I learn anything? I learned not to prejudge people, because I was going into that interview thinking that he was going to be on the attack and just insulting and just da-da-da-da. And he really wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. He was, for the most part, very respectful. Wherever he veered off of being respectful, I just veered him back on gently with a gentle nudge, And the reason why I did that is because as Black people, we are so ready to attack each other, that we don't realize that sometimes quite often the attack is not necessary. Or sometimes it's just a slight nudge that somebody needs. A little tug, a little push. That's all. A little inspiration, a little motivation, a little reminder. We don't always have to go for the jugular with each other. We're gentle with everybody else except for with each other. So, but I also know that because we are who we are, we also know how to get under each other's skin. So that makes it a little challenging,
Okay. Which are you most concerned about in the community? The blacks going crazy, killing each other, systematic racism, or police brutality?
The blacks? All right, repeat those three again.
Killing each other, black on black crime, systematic racism, or police brutality?
I would probably, between those three, well, the reason why I take issue with the term black on black crime is that nobody uses the term white on white crime. If you look at, Whoopi Goldberg did, and she got in trouble for it when she said that Russia and Ukraine, that the Holocaust, that Hitler, Germany, and the Jews, that was white on white crime, and she got in trouble for it. I disagreed with her because I knew that the Holocaust was very inclusive of black people, and that black people played a major role in that experience, and that we were a catalyst and a prime motivator for the Holocaust to come into being, but for the Jewish Holocaust to come into being. But as far as black on black violence is concerned, I don't think in my opinion, I don't think black on black violence is any more unique than violence between other races and other groups. Nobody talks about Japanese on Japanese violence or Asian on Asian violence, and there's a whole lot of it. It just doesn't get lionized. It doesn't get it doesn't become made part of the entertainment social fabric of America. Are you telling me the Yakuza, the Japanese mob, doesn't commit Japanese on Japanese crime, Asian on Asian crime, or the triad, the Chinese mob doesn't commit, or that Mexicans? Nobody talked about Mexican on Mexican violence. So I don't know why people tend to make normal human behavior between black people some type of racial aberration. Black on black violence. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? It's just violence between people. And the reason I say that is I grew up with Italians, and I used to work for them too. And I'm not going to say in what capacity, but I saw violence amongst them that was insane. The type of shit that hit the front page. That kind of stuff you rarely see with us. Yeah, all you hear about black, he shot this one. This one got shot. This is shot, shoot. You get behind a gun, you bust, can't even really shoot. You hit somebody by accident, hit a little kid in the street. No, I ain't talking about that. Right. So black on black violence, I can't say black on black violence is a particular concern for me. Now, what does concern me when it comes to black on black violence is the lack of black fatherhood in the black community, where young males are growing up without a strong male presence in their life, and they end up being raised by the wrong influences. You understand what I'm saying? That I have more of an issue with that. Now, to be quite honest, and looking at, because I follow some of these things on social media, and I was watching this thing about these young drill rappers. Now they're in many of it used to be concentrated just in Chicago, but now they're in Atlanta and they're in Florida, and they're killing each other like crazy. I'm not naming any names because they don't need me to help them get more famous. But my thing is, okay, so they're gangsters. They're just gangsters that happen to rap and sing. So that's what gangsters do. Nobody was tripping out when it was Maya Lansky or Bugsy Siegel. You know, you watch The Godfather or Scarface, it's like, that's what gangsters do. So I'm not really overly concerned with that. My only concern with it is that when you're not concerned about those things, they have a really messed up way of making themselves felt in your personal life. And then you become really concerned. So am I concerned about the loss of life? I'm more concerned about the people that have to suffer from the stupid shit that these people do. Right? So I'm more concerned about that, but it's hard to feel bad for somebody, you know, promoting gangster rap and gun talk and gangster language, and then you get shot. That comes with the territory. You already knew that was coming. You signed up for it. If you wanted to get shot, why didn't you do something smart like sign up for the military and get a GI Bill that'll pay for your college, and you go to school for free and get a living stipend when you come out the military, and you travel the world for free. And you know, and you got veteran status. But if you want to shoot and you want to play with guns, you understand what I'm saying? Go join the military. Like do it honorably, right? Destroying your own community. Join the military, you know. So, but if you know, but if you want to do it on your own, like many of these little rappers do, then I'm not going to knock the next person's hustle. And if it's worth being shot up for it to you, I'm going to tell you not to step in front of it to do that. That's like if you want to jump in front of a train and that's your destiny, you see that as your destiny. Who am I to tell you no? You understand what I'm saying? So that's how I feel about black on black violence. It's not, I think that I'm not saying that it does not exist. I don't care for the characterization of it. It's just violence. It's not black on black. It's just violence, right? As far as systemic racism is concerned, I think systemic racism is much less of a problem facing the black community than black historical apathy. Black historical apathy is, I think, our biggest problem. And because we have a dysfunctional relationship to history, we think everything else is more important than history. Because of that, we are always positioning ourselves to repeat the same mistakes. So it's like being a hamster on the wheel that never goes anywhere. Well, you don't want to study history, so just keep making the same mistakes. I'm supposed to feel bad for you? That's why I tell white people all the time, don't feel bad for black people. That's fucking stupid. Right. What the fuck are you feeling bad for black people for? Black people don't give a fuck about black people. Black people don't care about history. They'd rather watch Atlanta Housewives, Love and Hip Hop, you know, the frivolous shit that black females are into. And these are the women that are raising our children in our households. Right? I'm not saying all of them. Right? But there is enough of that overriding, prevailing culture that runs through our communities. And this is why if these shows would not be popular if they didn't have an audience tuning in for them. In fact, if you ask me, now I might be playing myself because one thing I've noticed about black culture in America, the thing that makes black culture successful in America is not black people. It's white people. It's like white people is what really made the rap industry blow up. All these white people in the Midwest. And it's probably the same thing for Love and Hip Hop and Atlanta Housewives. It's probably a bunch of Midwestern white women that watch that shit. And most of us don't even think about it in those terms. I always try to think outside the box. And that's really probably their main audience. That's really, really probably their main audience. I'll give you an example. The term Karen, right? When the term Karen came out, what was a Karen? A Karen is a white female that just got to be in everybody else's business, particularly for racial reasons. Right. But now you have this culture of white women on social media calling out Karens. Everything out their mouth is, oh, she's a Karen. She's a Karen. I'm just like, huh? It's like I go on social media and I remember when twerking was a thing that was strictly in the black community. Now you got on TikTok, I go on TikTok and I see white females and all they do is lip sync to black male rap songs. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, this is insane. Like, this is some crazy shit. Right? And so it's like, so I sometimes say to myself, I'm like, if the white conservative, if the Prager University type of people could see these white people on TikTok rapping to drill rap, these are your daughters, right? And it's like, you know, I don't really get it. I know a lot of it is cultural contamination, and social media has made the world smaller, so that eventually what happens is that we all end up having more in common than not, right? But the problem with that, the danger is that it's a superficial in common. Because when we go out into the real world, those same racial disparities can still undermine us. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that systemic racism is this big issue that I think we need to worry about. No, because I think we do ourselves more harm, way more harm than systemic racism does. Way more harm. The classism amongst black people is out of control. It's out of control. Classism. In fact, if black people actually knew the history of classism, first of all, what I tell people, if you really knew black history, I would tell people all the time, black people are the original 2%. They are the original snobs, the original elitists, the original people with the nose up in the air looking down at everybody else. We started that shit on planet Earth. That was us first. You ask the average black person about the origin of money. They can't tell you. They don't know anything about it. Look, zero. Ask the average black person, where was money created? What is the story of the creation of money? They don't know it because I told you before, they don't care about history. Everything else is more important. If you knew history, you would know that money was created in ancient Egypt. Classism was created in ancient Egypt. So that's why I don't romanticize all of that shit. I love the aesthetic. I love the way things appear and look. I love the literature, all of that. But I don't romanticize the truth of ancient Egypt. They were human beings. They farted, they shitted, they threw up, they got sick, they got viruses. They were human beings. They weren't aliens and all this other super whole. I mean, I see the shit that people post on social media about ancient Egypt, and it makes me want to throw up. You know, right. The Ankh, realize yourself. And all this guru bullshit. It makes me sick to my stomach. It's like, dude, you don't know anything about ancient Egypt, bro. Because if you did, you wouldn't be posting stupid shit like that. You really wouldn't.
All right, so let me move on to the next one because of time. So look, do you care about your image rather than the person?
Oh, do I care about my image rather than the person? That's the reason why that's a hard one. That's a really good one. Whoever asked that, they get props. The reason why I say that that's a hard one is because so much of my person is invested in my image. I said earlier, Nile Valley movement is predicated upon perpetuating and advancing a black image of Nile Valley civilization and culture. And I said that what did I say? I said that I just had a brain fart, so I can't remember what I said. But the bottom line is that, I said, and the best person to start with is yourself. And so that's why that question is a little, it's not complicated, it's complex. There's a difference, right? So could you repeat the question one more time?
Do you care about your image rather than the person?
The person must always come first because you don't want it to be image without substance. If it's just image, then you're really no different than a whole lot of other posers and fakers and so on and so on. So coming up the way I came up, where I came up, and the era in which I came up, being real is a very important thing, being authentic. Like, we would get laughed at if we wore a pleather jacket. Today, you could wear a pleather jacket, nobody cares.
Man. Yeah.
When I was growing up, if you got caught wearing a pleather jacket, you would get ragged.
Man.
You would get so ragged. And so authenticity has always been a part. Like, you know, I'm sure today, like, how would you feel if somebody bought you a pair of Yeezys, but they were knockoffs, right? You know, from Kmart. You ain't gonna wear them.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So authenticity matters. And so with me, because I'm such a believer of authenticity, and I think that also drives my scholarship. I always wanted my scholarship to get to the heart of the matter so that when speaking about these things, I could be authentic. You understand what I'm saying? That's all. So yeah, the person comes first. And the outside, the external should be an expression of that. In fact, in ancient Egypt, the word for image was tut, right? So tut, or you could the best way to say it, I think, is tu, T-U-T, tu, right? Or you could say tut, like tut ankh amen, right? The living image of Amen, right? Image is tut. So and something else about ankh, the word ankh. The word ankh in the Eden Kemet, the language of Kemet, means life, but it also means reflection. It means life and it means reflection. That's why most of the mirrors in ancient Egypt were always in the shapes of an ankh, because you could see your what? Your image. So imagery and life are very connected in ancient Egypt. They're very, very connected. Okay. So when somebody asks me, so when I say, is it your personhood or your image, which one is more important? They're married to each other. Especially if you study, if you subscribe to ancient Egyptian anatomy, right, of the human being, you have the body, which is called the kat, right? Then you have the ka, which is the personality of the person, right? And even which exists in an ethereal, spiritual kind of way. And then you also have the ba, right, which is the soul, right? You have the ba, which is the soul. And in this anatomy, in this schema somewhere, something else that stands out is the ib, or the heart. And the heart is very important. So in ancient Egypt, they often say that this thing that we call life is the time of follow the heart. But then you also have the kaibit, and the kaibit is the shadow, right? And all of these things make up a human being, a person, okay? And so there's no real divorce one from the other until you pass over, right? When you pass away, that's when they say he or she has gone to their ka, right? They've gone to their ka. So if you study the literature of ancient Egypt, to put it in a nutshell, you basically return to the sun. You know, that's where your life force came from. That's where it goes back to the sun. You know, and so yeah, the person first, but the image must reflect that.
Okay. Would you listen to an R. Kelly song?
Hell yeah, in 2 seconds. I was listening to one yesterday.
Oh, man.
In 2 seconds.
Yeah, because some especially some of the blacks, they're afraid to listen to it in front of other blacks.
No, see, black people are afraid of stigma because they're followers and they're not leaders. And not only that, they judge falsely. They judge with ignorance. And so they think they know something when they actually don't know shit. Real talk. They think they know something when they actually don't know shit. I watched all of those R. Kelly documentaries. I didn't see any evidence. All I heard was rumors. To this day,
He about to get out. He about to come home.
Hey yo, all I saw was rumors. A lot of people
lying, man.
All I saw was a lot of people that were upset that they didn't get to live out their life with R. Kelly, and they was mad about it. So they told stories. But when the deeper they dug, they found out that everything that was said was not true. So when they interviewed his secretary not too long ago, a grown woman, this is a grown, mature black woman, she said verbatim, she said, I'm the one that booked all of his trips for females to come and visit over the years. And she said, never once did I book a ticket for anyone who was underage. So for somebody who was with R. Kelly for so long, who managed both of his homes, and she said on camera, what's that dude, that black dude from Good Morning America with the gap in his teeth? He did an interview with her, right? He did, the former football player. He did an interview with her. And she said, I never saw that. She said, I never saw that. So, and there's something else that really pissed me off about. See, one thing about black people is, I tell people all the time, and I don't mean this, I don't care who, like, black people ain't shit. I'll tell you that in a minute. Black people ain't shit. The same people out there screaming Black Lives Matter. And they said, what did the Black Lives Matter do? They took all that money and went and bought mansions and all that other shit. We don't talk. They don't give a shit about black people. And nobody uses black people more than black people. And nobody is quicker to assume the guilt of another black person than a black person. Real talk. Real talk. I'm telling you the truth. I mean, it's not, I don't tell people what they want to hear. You come to me, I'm going to give it to you straight, no chaser. I love my people. I love my race, not because of us, but in spite of us. I have to love you. If I love myself, I have to love you. You understand what I'm saying? I have no choice in that matter. But that don't mean I got to take reality out of context to love you. Fuck out of here. No, that's not going to happen. Right? So I play R. Kelly from sun up to sundown. Now, I must admit, it don't hit the same way that it used to. But that's not because I believe what was said about him. Why? I just did a whole lecture on false rape culture. There was a whole culture that is based on false rape allegations. There is an entire culture. And I did a whole lecture about it on my channel. I did a whole lecture about it. It's called the False Rape Mafia. It's real. The judges are down with it. The cops are down with it. The lawyers are down with it. The correction officers are down with it. It's part of the industry. You get money when people get convicted off of shit like that. Lawyers make money. Bailiffs make money. Judges make money. Police officers make money. Right? Prisons make money. Once a female falsely accuses you of rape, there is a lot of money to be made from so many different angles. You're in a lot of trouble. You're in a lot of trouble. And that's why I tell brothers today, the only thing saving brothers today is technology. That's it. Someone tried it with me. When they tried it with me, the only difference between me and R. Kelly was I kept all of the emails she was sending me over the years. So I was able to put that shit on the screen on YouTube and everybody saw it. They laughed their ass off the internet. You running around saying Shakka did this, Shakka did that, Shakka did this. But look at this, thousands of emails you were sending him over the years. Speaking in that kind of language. I can't even repeat what she was saying to me on your platform. So, that's the truth of the matter. And not only that, false rape culture. Let me explain something to you. And I try to tell this to all young black men who are watching me, and I hope they see this. Always remember, a woman's greatest weapon is your lust. Don't ever forget that. Your lust for her is her greatest weapon. So always keep that in check. Always keep that in check. Because it can be used against you and it can come back to harm you in ways that you never imagined because you never presume. See, part of the problem is that men don't think that way. Well, yeah, you've never had to. You've never had to. But when you've been in a position centuries after centuries after centuries that in order for you to effect change, you had to take what's called indirect routes. False rape culture is one of the main weapons used by the female species. So much so that ancient Egypt published a whole genre of literature called false rape literature, where they tell stories about women accusing men falsely of rape.
Yes. That's been going on for a while, huh?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Without question.
Wow. Okay, let's move along. I know I gotta attend to some.
And my favorite R. Kelly song is "When a Man Lies." My two favorite R. Kelly songs is "When a Man Lies" and "I'm a Bad Man." Yeah, "Bad Man." My two favorite songs.
Yeah, I love R. Kelly, man. I listen to him all the time too. I don't even care.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I wish it's a classic.
Not a classic, man.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Classic. Now, can a white woman be considered a queen just like a black woman can call herself? You know what I'm saying? Because if
no, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I think, of course you can. First of all black women are not queens. That's number one. Somebody asked me that the other day. They literally asked me, do you think all black women are queens? I said, hell no. Have you seen some of these black women out here and how they behave? The kind of shit that they do to their men, to their children, to themselves? Of course not. Look at the videos. Look at how they parade themselves in front of the world with no self-respect at all. You know, this is just what the people are doing. You know, one of the most dangerous things about women, and one of the things that I find really distasteful about women, although I love them with a passion, is that their number one Achilles heel that they follow each other. They follow what they do. Whatever 20,000 women over here are doing, this woman wants to do. All you got to do is look at social media, look at TikTok, look at Instagram, look at, they all behave the same way. They all want the same thing. And it's sad because you don't really find individuals anymore. How can I call you a queen if anybody's an individual is going to be a queen? The thing that makes a queen is, number one, she's not like all the other women. That's number one. The thing that makes a queen, first of all, ask the average black woman. Ask the average black woman. Seriously, I'm going to bug you out. Ask the average black woman, because my ex will tell you this. My business manager will tell you, because I've taught her all of this stuff. Ask the average black woman, how many different kinds of queens are there? In other words, next time you hear a black woman refer to herself as a queen, just say to her, excuse me, sister, what kind of queen are you? Because you said you're a queen. Well, I'm a black queen. No. What kind of queen are you? There are different types of queens. Are you a queen consort? Are you a queen regent? Are you a queen mother? Like what kind? There are different kinds of queens. There's about 3 other ones that I didn't mention. So which one are you? They don't know because they don't care. They don't give a fuck. I'm a queen because I said I'm a queen. Bullshit. That's not what makes you a queen. Right? What makes you a queen at the end of the day really is your pedigree. So what's your pedigree? Oh, you don't know. What, Jesus? You think you a queen and you going to church talking about Jesus? Yeah? Well, that might make you a queen. Theodora was an empress. Right? But she's the queen that you should study, Theodora, the wife of Justin I or Justinian II. I forget which one. Right? But Theodora, she went from being a stripper to being the fucking empress of Rome, bro. You know what I mean? And put her husband in check and advanced her version of Christianity over his version. Yeah, it was deep. It was deep between them two, man. Deep.
Theodora, huh?
Yeah, Theodora is somebody you want to study. You want to go to her Wikipedia page and just read it from top to bottom. Yeah, she went from being in the brothels to becoming an empress. She did a Cardi B. She's the original Cardi B. Yeah, she went from the strip club to the throne, for real.
Wow.
Yeah. Fact. And the kind of wealth that she had, Cardi B couldn't begin to imagine. Yeah. Yeah, Theodora, that's somebody you want to study. You know, but as far as being a queen goes, that's pedigree. In fact, I did a lecture talking about, so people use the term Hotep a lot. Right. But what a lot of people don't understand is that in ancient Egypt, Hotep represented a royal bloodline from the first dynasty onward, a royal bloodline, okay? Starting with Neat-Hotep, all right? Neat-Hotep, not only was she the first queen of Egypt, but she was also the first female king of Egypt. It was not Hatshepsut. They had a female king back in the first dynasty, but they don't know about that because they don't study history and they don't care. They don't give a shit about their history. They don't give a shit about their pedigree. So how you gonna call yourself a queen? What make you a queen? Because you got breasts? Because you got, I don't know, a coochie between your legs? Because you got a womb? That makes you a queen? All right. If you want to be a generic queen, that's fine. But if you're going to be a real queen, the first thing you got to talk about is your pedigree. Real talk. And if you don't got a pedigree, then talk about the pedigree you're putting in line. So that we know that, okay, we understand the criteria that's being met here. We understand that there's a certain set of, what does every king have? Every king has a standard, right? You know that this letter came from the king because His standard is on it. See it right there. But guess who also had a standard? The queen. Boom, she put a standard on it. So I asked you a queen, what's your standard? I didn't ask you your signature. I said, what's your standard? Because your standard represents something. Right? What do you represent? I don't know what the fuck you think because you got a house and a car and you got money in the bank account that makes you a queen? That might make you that makes you a lady. And if you want to use old parlance, you are a lady. You understand what I'm saying? That's what you are. You're a lady. You know what makes you a queen? You know, at the end of the day, it's pedigree. It's pedigree. Now you could be someone's personal queen. Like somebody say, "Oh, this is my queen." Okay, that's your queen. Is she really a queen? You know what I'm saying? She your queen. See, she could be your queen, but that don't make her. Are you ready? The queen. See, the queen is different from your queen. Right? Real talk. Totally. Your queen could be a bum chick to the next person, depending on their standards. But when you're talking about the queen is a queen, right? When people talk about the Queen of England, that's not talking about, oh yeah, Philip, that's your queen. Nah, that's the queen. Okay,
that's the queen.
Okay, right? But I guarantee you this much right now in Africa, you have real queens today. Ask the average black woman out here to name you 3 African queens that are queens today.
Damn.
Now watch this. If they can't do it, they automatically get barred from being called a queen. How you gonna be a queen and you can't name me 3 queens from the African continent that live today? You know why? Because all queens know who the other queens are. You're supposed to know who your counterparts are, who your peers are. So how you gonna tell me you a queen and you can't name me 3 African queens alive today, let alone 3 African queens from the past? Because they're all gonna give you the same 3 African queens anyway. And I don't mind that. But if they know 3 African queens from the past, I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that. But I just keep it 100, you know? And the same thing for the kings. Oh, that's my king. Is he really a king? Why? Because he pays the bills, because he has a car, because he takes care of the family. That makes him your king. Okay, that's your king. That don't make him the king. Okay? The king is able to do certain things. And the number one thing the king is able to do is he's able to put a certain amount of men in the field at a moment's notice. If you don't believe me, you want to know who a king is? Vladimir Putin. That's a king.
Yeah. That's the king, man.
Don't let nobody lie to you.
You know what he's doing, too.
Don't let nobody lie to you. That's a king. Now, if I called him a king, then apparently a white woman can be called a queen. Right? It makes sense. If I just said Vladimir Putin was a king by virtue of what he is able to do, not by the color of his skin. The color of your skin don't make you a queen or a king. That's what I keep trying to tell these people. There is criteria that has to be met. Some fucking standards, right? But if you're not about those standards and that criteria, stop talking about it. You don't care. You're not studying it. Have you ever, okay, you want to be a queen? Here's the first step. If you're a black female and you're watching this program right now and you hear me speak, go to Wikipedia, type in the word queen, and I fucking dare you to read it from the top to the bottom. Then get at me. Because then you might know what you're talking about when you call yourself a queen. At least you did some study on it. You know what I'm saying? How can I call you something you don't even study? That's just stupid. Real queens had to study queenhood. Every real queen that ever sat on the throne had to study what being a queen meant. If you didn't do that, don't call yourself a queen. Okay?
Y'all hear that?
That's your ego. That's that typical female ego at work. Now you could be daddy's little girl. Because daddy.
That's right. You be daddy's little girl now. Now, what is the purpose of a man?
The purpose of a man?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have always said, and I firmly believe this. I really genuinely believe this. The purpose of a man is a woman. And the purpose of a woman is a man. And the reason I say that is because our very nature makes us so interdependent on one another for this thing to work. that we are inextricably linked throughout time. And the only reason that has become undone is because we live in a socially dysfunctional society where the rules are basically, I don't want to say the rules, but we're the culture. We live in a dysfunctional culture. And in a dysfunctional culture, things that are natural and that should be natural are going to be undermined and usurped. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. The Black community in America has no meaningful traditions. Follow what I'm saying. The Black community in America, so-called African Americans, have no meaningful traditions. We have some holidays, right, which we don't celebrate appropriately, right, or in any meaningful way. But let me show you what I mean. How do you know when you become a man in the Black community? What's the tradition?
Working.
Oh, there is none. And you wonder why you got so many boys walking around the Black community posing as men? No, you have a lot of grown boys in the Black community. What's white man's favorite word for a Black man in America? It's not nigga, it's boy. Yeah. Because he's keenly aware of the fact that you have no meaningful community, you have no meaningful traditions in your community that determines manhood or womanhood. So what the fuck make you think you a woman? At what point did you become a woman? When your menstrual cycle started? We know that's not true. That's not true. Right? According to some people, that is true, depending on which culture you're in.
Right.
But in this culture, that certainly is not true. So let me tell you what I mean. When in the Jewish community, when does a boy become a man? When does a boy become a man? At his bar mitzvah. At his bar mitzvah, he becomes a man.
And what age is that? That's
good question.
Right.
I want to freak you out. Type in the word bar mitzvah on Wikipedia and look and see how old a boy is when he has his bar mitzvah. I'm going to show you something right now about Black people, my people who I love. You go. Are you there? I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Right. Hold on. Hold on. Am I in the wrong place? Nah, hold on one second.
And mine is kind of.
I got you. Hold on one second.
So.
All right. Here we go. Let me take this out. Here we go. And oh, son of a bitch.
And we got about 7 minutes till they kick us off.
All right, cool. Not a problem. Here we go. Right here. Boom. Here you go. Bar mitzvah. When it is and how to celebrate. You want to share my screen? Here you go.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to show you this. Share screen. Share screen. Home tab. Here we go. All right. Bar mitzvah. Can you see it?
Boom. Okay.
You got it, right?
Hold on. I see the number straight off the bat. Are you serious?
13.
13.
Okay. When a Jewish boy turns 13, he has all the rights and obligations of a Jewish adult.
Damn.
That's when they become a man, at 13.
Damn.
You understand that? Now, how can a community producing men, or better yet, how can a community that does not produce men, the Black community, how are you going to compete with a community that's producing men at 13 years old? How you going to compete? Your son is still a boy at 15, 16, 17, 18. He's still pretty much a boy. Or the 17, right? Even 16. Jewish community got a 3-year head start on us. They're producing men at 13, all the rights and obligations of an adult.
Yo.
At 13, you can't compete with that.
Damn.
You trying to produce a Mark Zuckerberg? Are you serious? If he had his bar mitzvah at 13, he became a man at 13. Recognized by his community as a man. Don't get mad. Get some fucking culture and some history. Don't get mad. That's the truth. 13.
Wow.
And then look and see at the bat mitzvah. When does a Jewish female become a woman? Right? Black people got this thing where they try to keep. We have a very skewed vision of the world. Very, very skewed vision of the world. Slavery really fucked us up in many, many ways. And remember, I told you, because we assimilated, we put ourselves on the same time sequence as our former slave masters. So whatever's true for them, we make true for us. That's where we fuck up. That's how assimilation will destroy you. That's how assimilation will always make you weak and always make you a beggar. Because you're trying to be equal with somebody when perhaps you could engage in superior behavior and superior activities. Right? You could use time to your advantage. If this boy has been a man since he was 13 and you only been a man since he was 18, somebody has a different relationship to time than you do. See, this shit goes much deeper than people want to really go. Black people want to talk about bullshit. Voting rights. What the fuck? Right? You're somewhere so lost in the fucking game that the things that you try to talk about that you think they're going to really remedy your situations, you're too fucking lost. You understand what I'm saying? You're too fucking lost. You don't study winners. You don't study people, cultures, societies that really, really win. That play by, here you go, a different set of rules. What rules do black people want to play by? Any of your rules. Whatever rule get me the candy bar the fastest, that's the rule I play by. I didn't lie.
That's nothing but the truth, man. Okay, we got 3 more minutes left.
Let's do it.
We have 2 more questions. Let me see. When you're angry, how do you resolve it?
Oh, that's a really good question. When I'm angry, usually by making mistakes. That's the first thing. Usually I make mistakes, which should tell you something about anger. If I'm not careful, I may hurt the feelings of a loved one, particularly my son, who I love and adore. I mean, he's a grown man. He's tough. I raised him to be tough. But sometimes I can be a bit sharp with my tongue, and I have to be careful with that, even when I'm playing around with him. I don't really focus on anger too much. So it's really hard for me to say. The things that I get angry about, I deal with frustration more than I deal with anger. I deal with frustration a lot more than I deal with anger, because anger is just not profitable. Anger does not come across to me. Don't get me wrong. Anger has its place, and it could be a motivating, an inspirational thing. Like there's a scene in the movie Terminator, the one that had the female Terminator in it with the blonde hair, like it was like Terminator 3 or something like that.
Yeah, that's on Netflix. I seen
right? She had the red suit on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there's a scene in that movie where John Connors is sad because he realizes his mother died or something, and they're in the vault of his mother's vault. And he gets depressed, and Arnold Schwarzenegger grabs him by the throat and hems him up, and then he gets angry, and then Schwarzenegger says, "That's better. Anger is more useful than despair." That is a very, very altruistic statement. Anger is a much more useful emotion than despair. However, there are emotions that are far more useful than anger. So as a utilitarian type of person, I'm always more concerned with what is the most useful emotion at this moment. And that's what I try to head towards, right? So whatever's most useful, like what's going to lead me to something healthy, what's going to lead me to something positive for me, right? I mean, like whatever that is, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be something different for every person. It literally is. Like I'll watch something to take my mind off of it. Maybe the news, right? Or yeah, that's pretty much it. Call a friend and just talk to them. But me, I'll just watch something and I'll let something take my mind away. A movie, a film, something, read a book. There's something to take my mind off it. Because anger don't put no money in my bank account. It doesn't make my muscles any bigger. It doesn't make my voice sound better. So I'm trying to figure like what is anger's like a goddamn hangnail. It doesn't really do anything for you, but it could also act as a signal that that something's wrong. Like you might have too much salt in your diet. Because if you have too much salt in your diet, you're gonna have high blood pressure. If you got high blood pressure, you're gonna find. Like I used to find myself losing my I used to get when I was in a relationship. We would get into bad arguments often because I would lose my temper because I didn't realize I had too much salt in my diet. And I begin to make the connection. I noticed every time I ate food at a certain restaurant, fast food or whatever it was, that I would lose my temper much easier because there was a lot of salt in the food. You understand? So be careful of your salt intake. I would use Himalayan pink salt, which is what I use. It's the only salt that I use. I just hear it's a really good source of salt that doesn't have the adverse effects. Right. But look at why you're angry and be careful of what you get angry about. There are too many. A lot of times we get angry over shit we shouldn't be angry over. So it all depends on what you're getting angry about too. If it's a problem that needs to be solved, I would say work on solving the problem. It's much more useful than just spending your time on being angry.
So for this question right here, you gotta answer real fast, okay?
Okay.
How do you spell shop?
Shop?
Yeah.
How do you spell shop? SHOP?
What do you do when you get at a green light?
What do I do when I get at a green light? I go.
You waited too long, man.
Okay, I don't know.
You're supposed to be answering fast. You had to think about it for a minute, huh?
Nah, I'm not. It's how the question is formed. Like, what do you do at a green light?
So what was first when you heard stop? Yeah. What'd you think of? I mean, once you heard shop.
So how do I spell shop?
Yeah.
I was going to say shakkaahmose.com. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Shakkaahmose.com. That's how I spell shop. I don't know how you spell shop.
Oh man.
Yeah, you can go buy one of these authentic waskets on my website, shakkaahmose.com. That way you can rock and roll. And you get my book, Codex Game Over, where I show you the Egyptian origin of the biblical writings. So that's another thing. I just actually updated that, by the way. I just revised that book to let people know. So yeah, I wasn't sure what to do with that. Shop and go. Yeah, shop and go.
Now, some people I catch when I ask them, how do you spell shop, right? Because you got to say it real fast. I asked them how to spell shop. And they say SHOP. And I said, what you do when they get around the green light? They say stop.
Oh, I hate psychologically slow people.
Yeah, some slow people.
Yeah. Well, psychologically, I'm the wrong person to do that with. I'm not slow. I'm not Jesse Lee Peterson. He's the one that says he's slow all the time. I'm not slow. Nah. I pay attention to detail. So I'm at a green light, go. Okay? Yeah, it was no way I was going to say stop. You're at a green light. Whether I answered it fast or slow, that was not going to happen. No.
I had to come up with something.
I'm familiar with similar games like that. I'll show you one like that the next time, but I'll get you. Yeah, trust me. I'll get you on camera, and it's gonna make you look bad, but that's all right. Yeah? And I enjoyed our time together. I hope your audience enjoyed it. If I offended anyone, that's okay. It's not against the law to offend people. People have to be okay with being offended, right? That's how you grow in life. because what offends you on Monday, you might agree with on Thursday. Why? Because you might have a different experience that changes your perspective. As I always tell people, perspective is a hell of a drug. So make sure you go to my website, shakkaahmose.com. Make sure you check me out on YouTube at YouTube Shakka Ahmose, and check out my platform, which is called Hieroglyph with Shakka Ahmose, where I the last broadcast that I did was about Whoopi Goldberg, her statements about the Jewish Holocaust being white on white crime, and that it was a white on white situation, and she got in trouble. And what else did she say? I can't remember what else she said. Oh, she said the Holocaust was not about race, and that it was a white on white situation. So I gave the breakdown to show how she was wrong, very wrong. And you can watch it and come to your own conclusion, but you'll learn a lot. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Amazing, man. It's good. Glad to have you on this platform. I'm very excited. Even the people that's watching, man, I know y'all excited too. I hope you come again, and I hope, just come past for a while, say what's up, whatever,
Of course, no question about it. Maybe we'll come through one night and just strictly do documentation, because that's what people love to see. Because it's one thing to sit there and talk. What I've tried to do is I'm trying to train myself, because I used to be so reliant on PowerPoints. I'm trying to train myself to just be able to spit it off the dome. You follow what I'm saying? And that way I can maybe, I guess, fit more in there. It's a little less work. And if people want to see the documentation, the best thing to do is just book a 30-minute session with me, and you'll see all the documentation in the world. Like you will get taught, like taught, all capital letters taught, So next time we should have a pastor on here, man. That's what I want to do. I want somebody to invite me on here with one of these bona fide Christians.
I got one for. I got a couple. I got one.
All right, so grab a pastor and we do this, man. Have some fun. You heard?
Sure will, man. Thank you again, man. Shakka Ahmose in the building, baby. Man, can you believe it? Shakka Ahmose, man. Great information, man. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. We're going to have him back. I'm glad that he came. Happy for this man's existence, man. Like I mentioned before. Really appreciate it. People, hey, make sure you share, like, and comment. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, okay? It really helps the channel. I know 90% of y'all always looking at the channel, but y'all not subscribed. I need you to get on it and press the button. It's free, because if it was me, I'd do it for you, okay? With that being said, peace. Have a great night.
Always in a good mood. Hear me and believe. Hold on for a second, dog. I got a sample for you. Take two, hit my phone back. Man, do what you do.